Hello and welcome into the Knicks-Verse. This is a special preview show with my guys, Quis and JD. What's up, fellas? Welcome.
It's good. Thank you for having us here, George. Really do appreciate it. Hype for this upcoming playoff matchup. We got to get this W. So happy to chop it up with you guys and talk some Knicks. Let's go.
Absolutely. JD, welcome, man. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
It's been a while, but great timing, right? Thank you for inviting me on. We talk a lot every day, but in terms of being on the show, it's great timing. And man, we are about, what is it? Is it less than 24 hours now? It's 6:51 here on the East Coast.
Hours. Yeah,
Yep.
Less than 24 hours away. So let's have a great show and let's get it going.
Man, be really honest here. Did you think at all, really, at the beginning of this season, that we had a chance of getting into the playoffs? Not even like not play in, just straight into the playoffs. Did you really believe in your heart that was possible, Quis?
I thought it was possible. Heading into the season, I said we were going to win, 46 games? But I really didn't know how the rest of the Eastern Conference was going to shake up, whether or not that had been enough for us to, avoid that play-in scenario. But I thought we would at least be in the playoff picture. Not going to sit here and lie and say I was 100% sure we'd be one of the top six, but I knew we'd be in a position to get there at the end of the season.
All right, JD, how about you? Did you believe it?
Real quick, Quis, you using your mic?
Yeah, why? What's up?
Oh, because I don't know. On my end, it sounded like maybe it was like it wasn't the mic. I don't know. Just on my end, it sounded like it sounded a little off. But maybe it's just my headphones. What was the question again?
Did you really
George?
believe it? Did you really believe
yes.
at the beginning of the season?
I
really believe it. It's the difference between hope and actually really believe. Because obviously I hoped.
George is the hoper.
Yeah.
It's funny the way you pose it, because I really wasn't thinking in that way. I had them at 45, 46 wins. I know Vegas had them at 39, but I had them higher than, George, within the chat. I just thought Brunson was going to be, I didn't think he was going to be like this in terms of the impact he was going to have, not only on himself, on his teammates. And I didn't think the way that we got here was going to be that way in terms of individual player development and things of that nature. Julius Randle having a bounce back year, but I thought we were going to be good enough to be in that, 5 to 6 range. When I was doing my predictions with on Knicks Fan TV, that was around the area where we had the Knicks more so in the 6th spot. So 6 fighting for the playing. I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that, because I don't want to say yes, I believe. I just never thought about it that way.
It sounds like you believed that we could be in the playoffs. It sounds like I was more like in the.
It was more like is it the same when you say I expected than say, because I expected them to be. It was my expectations was 6 seed. I thought it was like, I know a lot of people saying 7
the way it
seed.
happened. The way it happened is surprising.
Yeah, right. And I even think the way
we got
happened.
Lucky. We got lucky, guys. We got to be honest. We got lucky. The Nets imploded, even though they're the 6th seed. That's what allowed us to get up to the 5th. We even had a chance at the 4th seed for a little hot minute there. But if the Nets were still together and Kyrie hadn't blown it up, they'd be the 4th seed right now.
And it's tricky because even if we were to go back and forget about what just actually happened in the preseason, a lot of people, some people had the Hawks ahead of us. Some people even had the Bulls, maybe, depending on who you talk to, just because, they had a decline now that we see it. But based on last year, some of them didn't see that big of a setback. A lot of people who had the Raptors ahead of us. So, that play-in spot was around where people pretty much predicted us to be.
Yeah, the play-in.
And I think it turned out better than what we all expected, to be honest. Even as I say I was expected a 6 seed, again, who they are today and how they got here, I think I'm more encouraged than maybe I thought I was going to be.
So it sounds like it is what it sounds like from both of you and from myself as well. It sounds like we did expect them to get back to the playoffs. But this team, the way it is, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting into it. Welcome into the Knicks-Verse. Shout out to the panel. Shout out to the chat. Everybody, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to drill deep. We're going to totally break down this first round matchup, which is, according to most people, is the most exciting and interesting matchup in the first round. It's going to be a quality 4-5 matchup. Definitely, we'll be dropping some polls in the chat as well. The thing is, it sounds like the three of us, like, we believe that we can get past the first round. It's not going to be easy, but we think, I think the 6th seed. Did we have hope that we were going to get into the second round at all at the beginning of the season? It sounds like we were just happy to get to the playoffs, and that's enough. But now we're going to get into it. I'm thinking this series is the Knicks series to lose.
Yeah, this series is definitely super winnable, but it all lies on whether or not we're going to have our marquee guy and Julius Randle be available.
Yeah, but see, that was something I didn't think in the beginning of the year that we could. I mean, I hoped it that we really could win that first round series. That's the one thing.
And think about, like, a lot of people with, again, prognosticators and looking into the future, the Nets being in play at that point in time, people saying the Raptors. Like, before the season, this Knicks franchise by many was thought to be, and you heard the debate even within the first 20 to 30 games, that whole mid mid, no man's land, no clear direction, 500, hovering around 500. Like, those were the words and evaluations you heard about this team. And I thought it was interesting because it was thought to be at a pivotal time for this franchise. Because if that was the case, then you're talking about, a critical junction for this front office in terms of what do you do? Do you go all the way and peel it back in terms of complete rebuild? Or do you go all the way and go all in now? Because usually, George and Quis, when you're at that no man's land, right? Like, when you look at the Raptors now, the actual Raptors of what happened now, Masai has some decisions to make about which way he wants to go. And that's where people thought the Knicks could be in. And I thought the way that it played out, we have a much more clear direction now of where this franchise is going. And we also have a much more clear view about what could be the pieces left to catapult us to championship contention. So I think all in all, the season has been outstanding in terms of the way that they played, but also the information that we've acquired about the future of the franchise. Now, this playoff series is going to be the next dose of information that we're going to get in terms of, who are the pieces and who could be here as part of the future of this franchise.
Yeah, that's well said there, because it's really, we got a lot of questions answered that we didn't necessarily think we were going to get answered this season. IQ. I mean, he just got nominated for 6th Man of the Year. Brunson, nominated for Most Improved Player of the Year. And he had a great season. Well, he had a great playoffs. He basically just, what we saw in the playoffs last season is what we saw all season this year for the Knicks, and that's fantastic. Randall, could he be the Randall of 2020-21 again? Answers, I mean, we've gotten so many answers. And I think that is really unexpected. But you're right. The playoffs, this next series is going to answer so many more questions that we have for the direction and the future of this franchise. But I got to say, before we get into the key factors, we're going to look at the keys to winning the series for both teams. I think the Knicks organization and the team itself is in about as good a position right now as they could possibly ever have hoped for. Quis, what are you feeling about that? Because I know you've had some certain issues with certain things.
Gripes.
Yeah, and we've shared them. I feel the same ones as well. But in terms of like where the Knicks are, how do you feel about it?
I'm thrilled with where we are right now. You look at what we're doing. We're going up against a team in the Cavaliers that were able to sneak in and kind of take Donovan Mitchell from us as we were trying to negotiate a trade for him. And we're pretty much in the same spot right now. And we have young guys that you mentioned that have elevated their game, and Emmanuel quickly. You did mention Quentin Grimes. He really came along towards the end of the season, and he was a big hiccup in the deal, to somebody that the Knicks didn't want to include. So to see him start to flourish the way he's been playing recently, I think that's great. We still have our draft picks. Julius Randle, he's come alive once again. He's been solid. Jalen Brunson, a lot of people questioned the signing. Me, myself, I even questioned the signing a little bit initially, but he's proved a lot of us, wrong. And if we can continue to move in this trajectory, you can definitely see this team being in contention within the next year or two. And we kind of have to, if you look at the way Brunson and you look at the way Julius Randle's contracts are structured. If we're going to try and make a push, I think it's going to be something that we do, not this season, of course, but within the next 2 seasons. So I'm thrilled with where we are at. We just really have to see what RJ Barrett is going to do this upcoming series. He's going to be real important for us to see what he can do.
Well, he's one of our key topics. So
yeah, shot hasn't really been falling like the way we would want, but I still got some faith in him. You just got to step it up this series.
Absolutely. How about you, JD?
Where we are right now, going into the theme of what you were saying in terms of getting questions answered. Well,
like as a franchise, how do you feel about it? Do you, because I know how I felt in those Melo years. I felt very stressed. I felt like, God damn, these are a bunch of old fuckers. You know what I mean? Like, look at Tyson Chandler. I mean, he catches one little cold and he's done. He loses 28 pounds. And, you know what I mean? I'm exaggerating, of course, but that killed that
future
series.
Wasn't as bright back then.
Yes, right. The future wasn't as bright. The present was incredibly bright, but the future wasn't. So it made me nervous, and then obviously we didn't perform as well as we had hoped. Like, I don't feel that right now. I feel sunny skies ahead.
And what's interesting about that is, how there was some fans were starting to get a little bit impatient about Leon Rose's, methods of just not much movement. People were saying in terms of he's not making, he's scared to make a trade. He's not making enough moves. He's not making enough trades. And it's funny how that works because, you start to think, is this a guy that just is hesitant to make the big move? Is that what it is?
I know we talked about that a lot.
But now, and that caused a lot of debate within the fan base of, do we just remain patient or do we just get aggressive? But, and it ties into the information we've received. It's funny because we are now in a position where I feel like we're in a driver's seat. We don't have to rush anything. You could make an argument, George, that even with whatever happens in this first round, the Knicks don't necessarily have to have a knee-jerk reaction to what happens in this first round because of the assets that they have and the specific young players we have on this team. When you talk about Grimes and you talk about Emmanuel quickly, even Deuce McBride, like there's enough talent here and there's enough potential in those talents that you could say, let's wait even another year. Let's see their development next year. Let's see, Grimes go into another year. Now, next year, we're going to be talking about Grimes next year with now playoff experience. This is his first time. And we, now you're starting to see what Jerry West potentially, was rumored that he said to Leon Rose in the middle of the Donovan Mitchell talks about Grimes is going to be a special player and you don't want to give him up. He had him even higher than RJ Barrett on in terms of his evaluation. So now this franchise is in a position to where you don't have to rush anything. I mean, you're starting to hear rumors about Luka being unhappy. You're starting to hear rumors about Jaylen Brown. You're starting to hear rumors around the league. And that's on top of things that are going to develop after these playoffs. After these playoffs, you don't know what could happen in Philly if they don't reach expectations. So what you do is you just sit back, you relax, and you let the market develop itself, and then you pick where you want to go. And that's how you upgrade the roster. And the Knicks have, Leon Rose, because of the young core, they have allowed him, and they're allowing him to kind of even remain more patient, because we are good enough to continue to be competitive. You can make a case, and I was saying this, there wasn't enough games here at the end. If we had 10 more games in the regular season, I really believe we would have caught up to the Cavaliers and been the 4th seed. So because we got hot late and everything that has transpired in the season. So going into next season,
we were right there.
We're right there.
We got a little cold, like that little 4-game losing streak, and that's when they were hot. And then it switched. We ran out of runway to catch up to them.
But like, there's enough answers we got from everyone that you can say, wow, like we have even more than what we expected in terms of the young assets. So you can just chill and see what happens. You don't have to rush anything right now.
That's the beauty of it. And you know what? Speaking to the record that we could have caught them, the Knicks since December 4th, which is the demarcation date, because the team was a different team before that. That's why I break up the performance of the team into those two halves, and then I even have the heart joining the team as a third phase of it. But there was already something in motion that began December 4th when Phibbs sat down Fournier and Reddish and Rose and went with the title rotation. But since then, the Knicks have won 37 games and the Cavs have won 36. We've actually outplayed the Cavs since December 4th, which included that game against the Cavs on December 4th. Actually includes 3 games against them that we won all 3. So, yeah, I do believe that we could have definitely caught up to them if we had more time. Grimes, one thing I got to say in terms of Leon Rose, I do think, and I agree, with you about him, that we were concerned about him not doing enough, and we were worried, is he just gun shy? Is he scared? Is it that thing? I think also it may have been, he also was probably waiting to see what was going to happen with the Nets. The Nets in our backyard looking like they could compete for a championship has been a thorn in Dolan's side for 3 years now. 4, I think we count them. And I think that kind of like clouded a lot what was going on with the Knicks, all the positive things that they were doing, the solid drafting, the development, the style of play, modernizing the style of play. All those things were kind of getting lost because of Nets were such a big story here, and it made the franchise look bad, but they stayed the course. Shout out to their ability to judge their own talent. A lot of times teams overvalue their own talent. Look, the proof's in the pudding now. They obviously didn't. They held on to Grimes. Look what he's done. IQ, look what he's done. Even Obi, they could have found a trade in the summer for Obi if they really didn't believe in him at all. So and Mitch, look at, they brought in Hartenstein. They've done an excellent job this season, and for a while there, you're right. We were worried that they weren't going to do enough. What's your feelings about Leon Quis, his whole performance and approach?
I think it's solid, especially when you look at the drafting. Pretty much our young core is entirely homegrown. You look at Grimes, he was definitely a steal in the draft. You look at Emmanuel Quickly, call him a steal. If we redrafted right now, I think the vast majority of the guys we picked are going to go in the top 10. If you look at the other guys that were drafted alongside him.
Yeah, I think if you redraft all those drafts, all of our guys would go higher now.
Much higher. Maybe Obi might move a little bit in the opposite direction, but for the most part, everybody's moving up. And also in free agency, he had some stinkers with the Fournier signing and things like that, but he redeemed himself for Jalen Brunson. I mean, it's been forever since we had a point guard, and he has solved that problem for us. So when you look at Leon Rose and the things he's done with the the draft and free agency, you got to be happy with what he's done. There's more that still has to be done, but so far he's definitely earned additional time here with the New York Knicks running the show.
All right, man. Well, let's get into it, man. Let's get into the meat and the heart of the show itself. Let's right now. Here we go. We are going to get into specific keys to winning the series for each of the teams. Let's begin with the Cavs. What do the Cavs have to do to win this series? I'm going to go with JD first.
Well, I think the first thing that they have to do is, I don't know if they have to do it because it's more of hope. They need to figure out a way to get Isaac Okoro healthy, because I think he is a big part of what they do in terms of, the Cavs being the top defensive team in the league, ranked first. And the reason is Isaac Okoro is a top defender, right? He's strong. He has a strong base. And he did pretty solid against Brunson in the games that they played against the Knicks. Now, Brunson was still able to be effective in the end, but he wasn't like explosive Brunson in terms of over 30 points or anything like that. Like, the Cavs will take some of those performances that Brunson had against them when Okoro played. They'll take that in the playoffs. And, I think he gives them that because of you have Mobley and Allen and then him on the perimeter. That trio right there covers for Garland and Mitchell enough that they still are ranked top of the league in defense. And he's a big part of that. So I think that's number one. Number two, they're gonna want to test Randall's ankle, and they're gonna want to probably pressure Randall and double team him. Now, it's funny because a guy coming off an injury like that, you probably want to just play one-on-one. You don't want to overcompensate on defense. But because of Randall's tendency to turn the ball over, because of Randall's tendency sometimes to be hit or miss on his passing around the court, his vision around the court when he sees a double team, because of that, if I'm the opponent, I want to put more thought into his mind. I want to put more pressure into him. He's probably already thinking about the ankle. That's a mental hurdle in game one. If he plays in game one, he's already going to have to overcome that. So if I'm the Cavs, I'm putting extra pressure on him and allowing him to get the ball. But then when he gets the ball at certain spots, I'm sending a double team his way, and I'm going to force him to make high IQ plays. So those are two keys. And the last key for me on the Cavs side is they're going to need Donovan Mitchell to be the best player in this series. Now, he might be the best player on paper to, I guess, the consensus and mainstream media, but he needs to be the best player in this series. And he probably needs to do it with a certain gap, not just barely over Brunson, but I think he needs to be that, him up here and then everyone else down there. Because if they don't get that type of performance from him, being that their bench is not as strong as the Knicks, your best player does not show up, I don't see how the Cavs win this series.
So to recap them, because we're probably going to have similar ones, so we don't we don't repeat them. Isaac Okoro slowing down Jalen Brunson. And that's a great one because when you look at the stats here, Brunson, in the 3 games that Okoro did play, Brunson only averaged 17.7 points per game.
And he didn't even get a lot of shots up too, George.
He averaged 16 shots, but it didn't even
that's
seem
even
like
low
that.
for Brunson when Brunson's shooting a lot. When Brunson's high over 30, he gets more than that.
Oh yeah, he'll take much more than that. I mean, the last game was
20 plus.
Yeah, but still, that just shows only 17, about 18 points a game. He shot only 30% from the 3. He shot 41.7%. This is the one game without the 3 games against Okoro, with Okoro on the floor. Now Okoro wasn't the only one guarding him, but he was the main piece. He didn't start in that first game, ironically, but then eventually he did. So that's definitely so. Okoro is a key thing, and from what I heard, he has not yet even practiced. That's what I heard today. So there's a chance that Okoro will probably miss tomorrow's game and probably be ready for Tuesday. So tomorrow's a key game. So that's a key thing. So it's Okoro. Number 2 was getting inside Randall's head. Is what it sounded like you were at the gist of what you were saying. By pressuring him, forcing him to make difficult decisions, quick decisions. So limiting Randall's effectiveness by frustrating him. And number 3 was, what was number 3? Spider's got to be the by far best player in the whole series by at least 25% more productivity than whatever Brunson gives you, or something like that. Okay, those are good. Those are good. Quis, how about you?
Well, to start, the Cavs are going to have to find a way to keep us off the offensive glass. That's going to be major for them. You know, you've got guys like Mitchell Robinson, got guys like Josh Hart who are great when it comes to rebounding or getting offensive rebounds and things of that nature. And, you know, the Cavs, they're a solid defensive team, but it can be extremely demoralizing when you have a solid defensive possession and you give up the offensive rebound and it leads to either an easy bucket or, you know, the team coming up with some second chance points. So that's going to be major for the Cavs if they're going to try to win this series, is try to make sure Mitchell Robinson doesn't become as much of a dominant force as we've seen him become this season. I believe year over year, he's had increases in his offensive rebounding per game. And, you know, towards the end of the season, I know it was against the Pacers and whatnot, but he was a monster out there. You know, Clyde said it numerous times, looked like a man among boys. He's going to be going up against two twin towers now, you know, in Allen and Mobley, so it'll be much more difficult. But I think Mitch can be, you know, a major factor in this series, and the Cavs are going to have to find a way to minimize his effectiveness. And the same thing with Josh Hart. We traded for him. He came over and he was a major spark plug and a boost for this squad. And one of those reasons was his ability to grab some key rebounds and some key spots. So if the Cavs are going to want to come out of this series victorious, they're going to have to find a way to keep those guys contained when it comes to rebounding. The second one probably going to be, you know, Caris LeVert. Is he going to be somebody that's going to, you know, step up and, you know, try and, you know, be that offensive force with that second unit? You know, he can score, he can play make. So if the Cavs are going to win, they're going to need him to really step up in those minutes when LeVert, when he's out there. I know I always mispronounce his name. It is what it is, but it is.
But they have a few guys, you know, Wade, Osman, but I think LeVert is the key. He's the key guy because he can give you points and he can
playmaking.
He can do some playmaking, and he's, you know, adequate defender. I can see LeVert being the key to this. You know, obviously the Cavs, for me, the keys. Are you done? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you can wrap it up.
You guys chime in on this stuff. I mean, the Knicks have the fifth highest rated offense in the history of the NBA. Fifth highest rated offense in the history of the NBA. It's crazy. And we don't shoot that great. It's not like we're doing it on tremendous efficiency. Our field goal percentage, 20th. But we get a lot of offensive rebounds. Our second chance points. That's going to be the key for the Cavs. Keep us off the offensive glass. Now, the problem is their defensive rebounding percentage is 20th in the league. Our offensive rebounding percentage is second in the league. So that's going to be it's going to be a tough battle for the Cavs, but that's going to be a key. Limiting our second chance points and forcing us to commit turnovers. And inverse, that's going to be the keys to the Knicks winning. If the Knicks can continue doing what's been working for them, which is fighting for loose balls, you know, the Josh Hart sliding on the hardwood factor, you know, getting Isaiah Hartenstein doing his thing. All those second chance opportunities that Mitch Robinson gets, and Randall too. Randall's pretty good at it. And even RJ to some extent. That's going to be the key for the Knicks. And I think that's where the series is going to hang in the balance. If the Cavs can really disrupt our ability to get second chance points and force us to cough up the ball like around 18 times a game, like, then they really have a chance to win this series.
I personally think Okoro will find a way to play tomorrow.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I saw a few videos that because on Knicks Fan TV we had one of their beat writers. We saw some videos of him shooting, and he looked like he could play. He hasn't taken. You were right, George. He hasn't taken practice with the team, but they've had him do like individuals. I think he'll find out a way to play tomorrow. I don't know how healthy he'll actually be, But we'll see. Nevertheless, just like I said the same thing about Donovan Mitchell, it's interesting because Brunson's not being talked a lot in terms of on our side because we're so like confident in him, deservedly so. He's earned that, I think, with his playoff performance, his history against Donovan Mitchell, his history in the Western Conference, who, historically is a very, very strong conference with elite, talents and elite players, and also his playoff experience, even dating back to, tournament play in college. But with all that said, I don't know that if Brunson is at like 20 points, 19 points, even efficiently, I don't know if we'll be able to win the series. I think he has to be he has to be special. He has to be,
over like what, 27? Over 27.
Maybe right around there.
Maybe
it's
even 30.
He may
need to average 30.
It's funny, George, because if you tell me Obi's going to be a starter the rest of the series, we might be able to win a series with him not scoring as much because I just think our style is going to change and other players are going to get shots.
Well, we'll get to that.
With Julius being a focal point and us, me expecting him to play for most of the series, I think the way that Brunson's going to produce has to be looked at differently. And therefore, in an offense with Randall, he is designed to be more aggressive. And I think we're going to need that from him because that's just going to be the style of play that our offense is going to be. Also, this is two of the slowest paced teams in the NBA. I know that last game was different, but, Cavs are last in the league in pace and the Knicks are like 26th in the league in pace. So, and it's the playoffs. We've already seen it even in the playing games, how things slow down a little bit. And that's just the playing games, the playoffs, long series, especially after a few games where now teams know what you want to do. JB Bickerstaff was saying that they already know the plays the Knicks are going to run. They've had a week off to look as much film as you want. I don't know that this is going to necessarily be an all-time shootout. Therefore, you're going to need your best players to be the best players in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree that, obviously, there's always surprise. There's always a guy that surprises you, a guy that breaks out, has a tremendous series that you didn't expect it, but you need your main guys to deliver. And I think you're right. I think Brunson has to average something around 30 a game, especially if Randall's not available, for sure. It's interesting is like this team, this Knicks team, we put up a lot of points, and we have a lot of guys who we've talked about this a lot that any given night can give you 25 points. Hey, we have like 6 guys that can give you 25 points. You can't say that about the Cavs. I can't even say that Mobley can give you 25 points or Jared Allen. You know what I mean? Like there's a game they can, but we have legit guys that can just pop and give you like even give you 35 points. I mean, let's be real. So we have a lot of potency, and the thing is, it didn't look that way in the beginning of the season. I mean, we were the worst 3-point shooting team in the league up until December 3rd. We were averaging 31.9%, the worst. But since then, we have risen to 12th best. We've rose 18 places. So now, not only are we shooting better, but these guys are communicating better on the court with each other. They're understanding where they like the ball, where they want the passes. And it's just familiarity has really impacted this team a lot, and growth from the younger guys. So Knicks are dangerous in that respect, but definitely Brunson has to deliver. He has to lead, and we have a slide actually asking that question specifically. But let's get to the next slide. I think we're good with the keys. I mean, the keys to winning. Any other keys for the Knicks to winning the series? I love that Brunson needs to be, a top 30-point a game scorer for sure. Quis, what's your major key for the Knicks winning this series?
We got to figure things out on defense because, we're talking about how we've been performing offensively, but the defense has definitely slipped toward the latter half of the season. So, you're going to have a guy like Julius Randle come back eventually. He's going to be hampered with a bad ankle. So that's going to potentially hurt us defensively. And, you know, you have guys on here on the team that play good, you know, defense individually, but for the most part, we've been giving up a lot of open threes. And, you know, Cavs got some guys out there that can knock down the three. And if we don't figure things out defensively, we don't want this to really turn into a situation where, you know, we're letting teams go up and then we're trying to have to fight back and try to claw back into the game. I don't think that's a recipe for success, especially here in the playoffs where, you know, all the teams are going to be tightening things up defensively. So that's definitely one thing Tibbs, I hope, is talking to his guys and trying to figure out how we can make our rotations a little bit better, a little bit more crisp. So that way we don't just have guys, you know, good shooters just wide open with nobody within, you know, 5-6 feet of them, and they're just getting wide open threes to knock down.
Yeah. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to tighten up that defense? Because we've been wondering it all season long. It really hasn't happened. I mean, we tightened it up a little bit. We got Hart. It helped.
I mean, part of it is the scheme. You know, the way Tom Thibodeau wants the team to defend. They have us walling up the you know, the strong side and leaving the weak side completely open. And that's a lot of times where you see us get burnt. So
we get burnt a lot on that.
Yeah, so maybe you might see some adjustments where you might have Deuce get thrown out there to help tighten up some of that defense on the perimeter. But for the most part, there are some flaws in our defensive strategy.
Yeah. I think we've kind of gone away from it, not away from it, but we're definitely doing less. I mean, we're doing a better job at least leaving somebody on the weak side to get close enough, even though, like, actually the last game, RJ did get burned. A couple of guys get burned here and there, but it's not as extreme as it used to be. But definitely that's going to be a major part of the game. And I imagine that's literally what they've been working on all week.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I think the way that you do it is, you know, this is a time that there's been enough of a sample size now where, as Quis mentioned, like it's just been interesting because we have a defensive-minded head coach, and this team has turned more offensive, even with some defensive, you know, players. He has the personnel. The personnel's there to get back into that, you know, top 8 ranking that Thibodeau likes to be in. Top 8, top 7. He always talks about he likes to be in that range because you have the rim protection personnel, and you have now with Josh Hart's acquisition, you have enough on the perimeter as well to do it. So I think now is you need a guy like Julius and RJ. You need those two guys to step up defensively, and that's one of the ways you're going to do it. You need, because, you know, Randall, if healthy, is going to play about 40 minutes. Now RJ's minutes is going to be, we're going to find out. You know, I think that's going to be dependent on his play. But a guy like Julius, you know, you step up and you play good defense on Mobley, that's going to go a long way. But not only individually on Mobley, but even on rotations, on pick and rolls. He steps up there. I expect Mitch to be ahead of the game defensively. I expect everyone else to be on the game. Grimes has a tough assignment, but that's going to be the key, is the rotations, because I think the Knicks are going to make some of these role players beat them from the perimeter. I know that last game they got hot, but, you know, what's the expectation that that's really how the Cavaliers are going to play, especially from the three-point line? Like, they went crazy, right? So I think when it comes to crunch time and it comes to the playoffs, it comes from your best players. Even Brunson is going to have to be a little bit better defensively. I'm encouraged by the time he's had off because, you know, he had that leg injury and then the hand. I think there's been now more than enough time for him to be at least enough healthy to be able to not be what he was becoming there late in the season after that leg injury. He was becoming like Evan Fournier type liability on defense. So, you know, he wasn't like that before that stretch. Like, he was,
Viva la traffic cone.
Yeah, like Brunson was like game to game. Like, he'll have a weak game, but then he'll have a game where he would be strong.
Yeah, it was like a good 2-3 weeks there where he was a real liability on defense.
Right, and I think it was because of the injury, because of the coincidence of it happening right after that injury. But now I think he's healthy enough to where he doesn't have to be a pure negative, and I don't think they're going to match him up. Well, they might. They probably will match him up against Garland when I look at the matchups. So Brunson's going to be important. So I think Brunson and Randall defensively,
you think Garland? If Okoro starts, wouldn't it be Okoro?
Then who you putting on Garland? RJ?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Because the last game, it
He's
was
RJ's done well against the smaller guards. He has the length to recover, unless it's like a total burner. Like look at even with Ja, RJ has
game one, though. Oof.
Yeah. So you
Game
think
one was tough.
So you would rather go, or not? What would you think would happen? Who would you rather have on Garland?
Man.
In the starters.
Because the thing with RJ is RJ's gonna give him space because RJ does not want him to get.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get beat off the dribble. But the problem with giving Garland space is Garland is different in Ja in that you kind of want to give Ja space and hope that he doesn't hit his perimeter shots.
Garland's a much better
Garland's
shooter.
a much better shooter. And actually, if you put RJ on Garland, that might get Garland going from the perimeter because Garland's going to have enough space in the perimeter to get more comfortable shots. The concern with Brunson on Garland is Brunson could get up on Garland, but then he could get beat off the dribble easily from Garland. I would rather take. I think I
that
rather
fits our
take
defensive
that.
scheme better.
Exactly. I think I'd rather take that chance where Garland's going to meet Mitch at the rim, where Garland's going to meet Hartenstein at the rim, where we're going to have to rotate to a perimeter 3-point shot or something. I might rather take that shot and see if their role players can beat us than have RJ on him and get Garland, who's one of their best players, get that guy going. Because you don't want to get their best players going. You rather take your chance versus those secondary players. So I might try it out with Brunson first, but obviously I'll be ready to make adjustments if that doesn't work.
Because even if Garland gets into the paint, who's he going to kick it to? He's going to kick it to Spider, but
One of
you
the
have
bigs.
Grimes on him. So Grimes, you would have a lot of faith in him playing defense, or it would be Okoro. And in that, if that's what happens, that's a win for us if it goes to Okoro. And he's the one putting up those open shots.
We want Okoro to put up 18 shots.
And here's the other thing too, George. If I mean, we're just talking about. I mean, this is the scenario we're talking about from a starter standpoint. First 5-6 minutes of the game, but I don't know that RJ is going to play as much minutes as quickly. I mean, I actually think he won't. So this may be a situation where it'll just be a concern to start games and to start halves. Right, second half, RJ will be the starter there, maybe the beginning of the fourth quarter. But when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to end of the first, when it comes to end of the third, when it comes to end of the fourth, those situations, those stretches of the game, I think quickly it may be a guy that's going to be on Garland.
All right. The odd thing about this team, it's odd in so many ways. Like we just explained how they have one of the 5 highest rated offenses of all time. Meanwhile, they're not a really good shooting team. But the defense itself really is the key. When you look at like opponent field goal percentage, even though the overall defensive rating of the team, we are 19th. So we're just above that bottom third. We're 19th, where the Cavs are first. There's a big valley between them, right? But then you look at the opponent's field goal percentage. For the whole season, the Knicks allowed their opponents to shoot 53.6%, which is 8th best. 8th best. The Cavs, with their number one offense, are only 0.1 percentage point better. They're at 53.5% and we're at 53.6%. So in terms of, and then we get those extra shots. It's mind-boggling that our defense really feels like it's kind of suspect out on the perimeter. Yet, when it comes down to overall efficiency numbers, we're right there with some of the best defenses in the game. Odd. That's such a weird team. Such a head scratcher to me. But let's get to the next topic, which you already kind of teased a little bit, JD. Whether the New York Knicks can win this series without Julius Randle.
Oof. This is gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to your answers on this one, especially Quis.
Yeah.
Let's see how much respect you give him, Quis.
I got respect for Randall. I'm not his biggest fan, but I got respect for his game.
We'll let Keith lead.
I'm just looking forward to your answer.
I think it's possible. I think we definitely could win without Julius Randle, but it'll be extremely difficult. We'd have to play perfect basketball.
Don't give me these political answers.
Well,
Ain't no you think it's possible.
We would just need 4 wins. 4
Can we win without Randall? Yes or no? Can we get 4?
Can we
yeah,
get
I think
4 wins?
We can get 4. Okay. I think we could get 4, but it'll be difficult. You know, we'd have to play perfect basketball. We'd have to win all our home games, and we'd have to still win on the road. That's why I'm so big on us at least trying to win this first game. So even if Randall doesn't play, worst case scenario, you rest him in that second game and you have him come back in game 3.
I was talking about that last night. Game 1 is essential. That's what how the Hawks took our heart out when they won that first game against us 2 years ago. I want us to do the same thing to the Cavs.
And imagine how nervous the Cavs are going to be if we go in there, no Randall, win that first game, because the Cavs are a solid home team, and it matches up well with us because we've been a solid road team throughout the season. So I think if, we get the right calls, we have our guys go off. Brunson has a good game. Quick has a good game. Grimes has a good game, which is all realistic. And we play stout defense that I think we can definitely pull out a victory in game 1. And then at that point, I think we definitely have a shot at winning if Randall doesn't return to the series. But I'm not hoping he doesn't return. I'm hoping he does show up and we can get the dubs. But I think we can
imagine what will happen in the NBA if the Knicks defeat the Cavs without Julius Randle.
Cavs GM might get fired.
I mean, who's our second best player then in a series? I just want you guys to realize this is a series, not one game.
Yeah, we know
like the playoffs come and they start right the now, game plan. It's not this regular season anymore.
Right now.
So without Randall, who is our definite second best player?
All right, I'll say mine because I think right now it's clear. It's clear our second best player, and by best, I mean impactful, gets you a bucket when you desperately need it, when shit's breaking down, gets a steal, gets a key block, gets makes a tough 3, breaks down the defense, gets into the lane. Emmanuel Quickley right now is our second best player if Randall's not available. That's my guy.
I'd agree with you, George. It's definitely Emmanuel Quick.
I would agree.
Which is crazy.
It's so tough because
and it should be. He's 6th man of the year.
Man. Hopefully, come on, don't jinx it. Where's the boy?
Well, at least he's in the conversation. He got nominated. Yeah. Knock on wood.
This is such a tough question to me.
I mean, it could easily be Grimes.
See, it's a tough question for JD, but he acting like it's a no-brainer. We definitely gonna lose.
No, because the optimistic view, the optimistic view is before we're all hype. Yes, we'll be yeah. Of course, we could win them. We lose this guy, we can win. We lose that guy. I just like to give respect to the opponent, and I just don't think it's.
So you don't think we can win? And mind you, I put this here specifically just so we have this conversation because it feels like we're definitely going to get Randall back during the series, whether it's for game 1, game 2, 3, we don't know, but we're going to get him back. It might even be game 4. We don't know.
I think we can. I'm always going to think we can win. I'm always going to think that, regardless, right? Like going into the game, I'm always going to be optimistic and positive about the situation. I just like to also look at just the reality of what the playoffs mean and what the stage is. You just need your best. Look what happened in the Hawks series, man. Once Randall wasn't playing well, we just had no chance.
We also had no Brunson.
We had no chance.
No Brunson. Quick wasn't the same Quick we see.
Yeah, today. We were the team.
It's a completely
but look, team, it was a 5-game series. What I'm saying is, even if we would have had Brunson that series, with the way Randall was shooting 20%, it's just not enough in a 7-game series to get 4 wins, bro. You talk about beating Donovan Mitchell 4 times. When I look at the playoffs, the Memphis Grizzlies Lakers game, Lakers series. It's like I always think about you got to beat LeBron 4 times, bro. Like it's not that easy. And without Randall, the only thing is I'll say yes to be optimistic.
You
But
don't think so? I can tell.
I just
You
don't
think it's
know.
possible,
tell,
but
I
not
can
probable.
All right, because you know what it is. We haven't had enough of a sample size,
All right.
enough games without Randall.
All right,
So for
JD,
me to tell you,
And with Brunson, because Brunson's been
Brunson-
out with Randall.
Brunson beat Mitchell without Luka last year.
but Luka came back in that series.
Did he?
Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Don't get it twisted.
He did. And we may have the same thing here.
I think it was what, game 3? He came back.
Game
Like,
3. Yeah, I think it was game
people like to say
3 or
without
4,
Luka that he played well without Luka, but he didn't like it wasn't the series without Luka.
Yeah.
Luka came back and just iced. Like they had no, like when Luka came back, that's when they had no chance. That's what I'm saying. Without Luka, there was still some games, like it was still tight games there.
It was a battle.
It was a battle, and that's what I'm saying. Is just I'm put it like this. I'm confident in your answer.
I believe that this current Knicks team without Randall would beat that Mavs team last season without Luka. Both with Brunson.
Without Luka, this okay.
I believe that's how deep I believe our team is.
Yeah,
we have enough. We could if they're both teams are matched up against each other, like let's say in an NBA 2K kind of situation, whatever. I believe that we're a deeper team. We're a better team. We're a more balanced team. Now we're a better shooting team. We weren't the first half of the year, but now we're a better shooting team. We have guys that are playmakers. Hart at any moment get a steal. Deuce is a total. We'll get to that too. So you don't think we can win without him? I think it's a tough battle for sure. It's 7 games, but I think the Knicks have a chance to win this series without Randall. Now with Randall, here's my concern, and this is why I put this question like this. This is my main concern about Randall. We know it's all up here with him. Obviously physically too. Physically he needs to be 100%. And apparently he feels fine, he said. But mentally, he's going to be bringing a lot of noise from 2 years ago. And we saw him have a couple of breakdowns mentally this season. Didn't go well. The fight with Fournier, the IQ thing, whining to the refs constantly. He's able to get, pushed off of his center. His Zen center. And if he's not 100% healthy and he tries to battle through it and he tries to be the hero, he could literally cost us a game or two if he's not 100% ready. This is my fear of it. That's my glass is half empty kind of look at the situation. If Randall's fully healthy and ready to go, 90%, 95% of him, because no one's ever fully, truly 100%, but at least, where he can give us the Randall that he was a month and a half ago, then that's fantastic. I see us definitely winning this series, in 6, definitely, maybe even 5, if he was playing the way he was cooking before. But I don't know where he's at right now. It's hard to judge. Especially at the moment when he got hurt. He was not in a great space mentally. That 57-point game, I think it took a lot out of him. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe he was just gassed and he's in better mental shape and physical shape as well now, more rested. I don't know. It's just an unknown for me. But I do know that this Knicks team, and we saw it in the last game against the Cavs, I know Allen didn't play and Okoro didn't play. But I love how this Knicks team rattles other teams. They rattle them offensively and defensively. It's like they can never feel quite settled. They say, we know everything that they're going to run. And meanwhile, they can't stop it because we have so many weapons. So it'll be interesting. I think we have a chance of winning this series without Randall. I think we definitely win this series with Randall.
And also, I think if we don't have Randall, you kind of make the case. You could make the argument we must win game 1 without Randall. Like if you telling me today Randall's out for the series, and we lose game 1, I mean, you talk about pressure. You talk about the Cavs gaining confidence.
Yeah, we can't come home to
It's over.
0-2. We definitely cannot come home 0-2.
And one of the things that I think Randall doesn't get enough credit for, because it kind of, his mistakes off the double team sometimes kind of decreases the value of that. Like, people recognizing that. People don't give him enough credit for how much he actually gets the double team. Like, we like to be so tough on our players, but he must be good. He must be a star, because time and time again, when Brunson wasn't here, and even with Brunson here, somehow Randall is still getting double teams from the opponents. So he obviously is a huge impact on the team. And that right there is where I think he's so important in a 7-game series. In a 7-game series, guys, we're not talking about one game where you can play a certain style and get away with it and get a win. In a 7-game series, being able to dictate tempo, being able to get the double team, all you're asking for then is for him to make the correct pass. And we've seen that, especially in the season. Like, we've seen him do that. We've seen games where he was crisp, passing the ball, quick with his decisions. That is going to be the question. But I just want to give respect to a player that's going to gain the double team. If he's not there, we just have to hope that our style of play is going to lead to 4 wins. But you can't tell me that even if Quickly goes off or Obi scores 18 points per game, that is still not going to cause fear to me in the opponent in terms of being able to create easy buckets. Because one of the ways that you create easy buckets in the NBA is when you have an offensive player that gets double teamed and it has the ability to create a shot with, the ball moving around the perimeter. If you don't have that aspect, only stars usually get that respect. Mm-hmm. It becomes much more difficult in the playoffs, not in the season again. In the playoffs, it becomes much more difficult to generate offense, especially at crunch time. And
I could see that could be an adjustment the Cavs make, because they didn't really double team Randall that much. Randall hurt them. They chose not to double team him. They chose to, sick Okoro and other guys onto Brunson, slow him down. They didn't want to have both guys. They didn't want to double both guys. So they chose to double Brunson, or at least try to keep the ball out of Brunson's hands as much as possible and not double Randall, because they felt like Allen or Mobley could cover him. But it didn't work.
You imagine Randall. I think you imagine Randall doesn't play and we win the series, and Obi's one of the big reasons why.
Oh, you got to ship Randall out of town.
Dude, that'll be a whole other conversation.
Like, you imagine that?
But guys, that's what I'm talking about. I think that shit's in his head. He is that kind of guy. He cares about that stuff. He has a big ego, and not always in a negative sense of it. He has a lot of pride, and I think it would crush him. And it would, and I think he might, for fear of that, he might push himself to play before he's fully ready. Comes out, he's missing shots, he's making turnovers, he's getting burned on the defensive end, and the whole thing just fucking comes down. Like a house of cards. That's my biggest fear about it all.
I mean, but I'd be more concerned if we didn't have a guy like Jalen Brunson. Then I'd be worried about it. But Jalen Brunson's the point guard. He's the guy bringing up the ball. He's going to be the guy that's going to make decisions if Julius Randle doesn't have it. And the same way we saw, he's the antidote. And the same way we saw Emmanuel quickly look off Julius Randle a couple times. I'm pretty sure Brunson will do the same thing if he's not in a position where he can, score easily.
Absolutely. So that's the thing. I think the team as a whole, they have to come together and decide that they're going to do whatever they can to beat the other team. And if it means, RJ only taking 10 shots and Randall only taking 12 shots, then that's what it means. If the defense gives it to you, then you take it, but don't want to force it. So it is going to be really interesting. So, but I think it looks like we all three of us agree it wouldn't be easy at all to win. JD thinks we probably would not win without Randall. Quis and I think it's possible. I think it's very possible. Let's get to the next one here. Here we go. Who are the X factors for each team? I didn't put a visual for Cleveland here, but I'm curious. I know who Quis's X factor is, so we'll go with him because I definitely want to talk about him. Keys.
My X factor is going to be Quentin Grimes, man. We've
Yes,
seen what
sir.
he's been able to do recently. What was it in his last 10 games? He's shooting crazy numbers from 3-point line. What is he shooting? Like 48% from three in the last 10 games. So he's finally knocking down that 3-point shot, which is phenomenal. That's something that we were really concerned about. At least not we. Obviously, I was really concerned about, in the early portions of the
Both
season,
of you
him
were.
not being able to knock down the three. He was having some trouble from the right side of the court, knocking down the three. But with him knocking down, his shot like that, it's going to really make things difficult for the Cavs, because we're talking about them sending double teams. If they send double teams and they help off of a guy like Quentin Grimes, he's gonna get some quality shots. And if he's knocking them down at this clip, the Cavaliers might find themselves in some trouble, especially if they're gonna try to match us point for point with Jalen Brunson, if he's cooking, Emmanuel quickly, and those guys are playing well. So for me, you got to go with Quentin Grimes, because not only is he gonna be someone that's gonna be an outlet for Brunson when he drives, or Julius Randle when he drives, he's also going to be the one that's matched up against, Spider. And, George, you mentioned that Spider has to be Spider in order for them to get the dub. Well, Quentin Grimes is going to play a big role in that, into whether or not Spider can go off. And I think we saw in their previous matchups that Donovan Mitchell has a lot of respect for Quentin Grimes and the way he's able to play defense. So, for me, it's going to be Quentin Grimes.
All right. I love it. Grimes, just, since the All-Star break, he's been shooting 45% from the three-point line on 7 attempts a game. That's perfect. That's perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything. Remember we said, hey, can you imagine if Grimes shoots 45%? And there he is.
I don't know about all that. You said 40, 41.
Well,
nobody said 45.
Well, we literally talked about this after the All-Star break, or after the trade deadline. If our guys start shooting and Grimes stepped up, quickly stepped up as well. Not as amazing, but he's shooting over 40% from a three-point line on a higher volume than Grimes. Josh Hart, he doesn't shoot the volume, but he's shooting 47.4%. And Brunson is shooting 43.8% from the three-point line. So we have 4 guys all shooting over 40%, which is really what you need at this time. For this level of team that we think this team is, you got to have at least 4 guys who are just lighting it up from beyond the arc. And the Cavs don't necessarily have that. Julius, his percentages went down a bit, but still on almost 10 attempts, and then 9.5 attempts, he's averaging 36%. That's pretty good. That's pretty good on that kind of volume. Be nice if it was a little bit higher, but yeah. So I think Grimes is instrumental because his defense is going to be key. He's going to be tested, and offensively, and I do think I think you guys are right that they will try to double Randle and do whatever they can to get the ball out of Brunson's hands. So that means that guys like Grimes and RJ are going to find the ball in their hands a lot in that starting unit, and then they got to make good with it. RJ, unfortunately, is shooting only 27.3% since the All-Star break from the three-point line. So he will be an interesting development. We'll get to him. Take a break for a second. Shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for joining us here. Lex the Destroyer, best mod around, holding it down. Thank you so much for moderating here. We see Eddie Suarez. We got David L. We got Splash 1976. We got Webb. What's up? Webb 2Bs. Who else we got here? Francisco Carrillo. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a crazy, awesome season. Not as crazy as it was 2 years ago, because that just came out of nowhere. But this has a lot of similarities to it in terms of how well they performed. They overperformed according to some people's expectations. Not mine specifically, but I'm more of an optimistic person on this in general. and I'm going to say this, George. Yeah, my X factor, and it's really a Thibs. It's Thibs.
Let's get to it.
Yeah, Thibs is the X factor, but I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to let you, JD, talk, because I think you're going to take the Thibs lead on that. I think the way Thibs uses Deuce and RJ it's going to be the X factors of this series. Deuce has been very, very productive against the Cavs. He's been a nightmare for Garland, and not so much for Mitchell, but at least he helps disrupt them, get them out of their flow. Remember when Spida was going crazy in that last game, going nuts? Deuce came in and played him in that second half, slowed him down. It slowed him down dramatically. Deuce is averaging about 12. He's averaging 12.7 minutes per game in the 3 games that he played against them, which were all wins for us. His plus minus is a plus 10.7. So in the 12 minutes he's on the court, our lead expands, or the lead shifts in our favor almost 11 points, almost a point a minute. Wild. And I think we're going to need his fouls as well, and he'll make them work harder. He'll pick them up before the half court line. The point of attack defense that he provides is going to be key. The thing is, rotations get tighter in the playoffs. So how will Thibs find minutes for Deuce on that floor? Because I think we need him to push Garland and Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, out of their comfort zones. And we're going to need some of his fouls. JD.
So I'll continue on with Tibbs, and then I'll get into my true, I guess my answer on. So I guess this round we're going Knicks, and then we'll say Cavs X factors.
Yeah.
With Tibbs, yeah, it's funny because it's funny how things turn around, because he's not getting talked a lot in terms of this week of. So I look around content creators and news and television and everything. A coach that was much maligned and under the microscope this season. It's funny how now, when the most important part of the season is here, he's one of the guys that's not getting talked about a lot in terms of, expectations, pressure, and, a question mark. And at the end of the day, he has to prove himself. Like, I understand in the end, he's had a very good season. He turned it around. And I think a lot of that, in terms of some of the calmness around him, is the fan base having some renewed confidence in him, but also recognizing that this coach did evolve. As you have mentioned throughout your post-game recaps, George, this coach has adapted some flexibility, maybe not all the way to where we would like it, but enough to where it's impacted the wins and loss column.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give him credit for that. And the team continues to play hard for him. So, but with all that being said, I'm always leery about when you have a matchup that's so one-sided to everyone in the public. And when we look at the head coach to head coach matchup there, it looks lopsided in terms of experience, in terms of
for us, in our favor.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I think it's really, you're right. People haven't talked enough about it. That's a big advantage for us.
And when I'm reading on the Cleveland side that JB Bickerstaff is calling Terry Francona a baseball manager, right? He's calling coaches, in another sport just to get some type of advice, as I was reading on Cleveland.com. That tells me. And then some of the things that JB Bickerstaff has said on some of these, interviews, I could tell this is a kind of like a rookie type coach with some of the ways that he's kind of approaching it. The guy is thinking a lot about this moment. This is a big moment for this coach. And don't get it twisted. Like, this is a young coach, and the Cavs have expectations.
And he never played, right? He never played in the NBA, right?
I
know his dad was an excellent coach.
Yes.
He never
don't
played
know
in the
if
NBA.
JB was ever a
what
NBA
is
player.
JB going to draw upon in terms of that postseason gravitas that you need to have? Like Thibs, not only does our head coach have the advantage of that. Sorry to cut you off, man, but Johnny Bryant, he's got a lot of postseason experience, and he also has the relationships. We have guys who have a lot of they understand what it's going to take to win. What levers you have to ramp up to win in the postseason. Does JB know? Do the other Cavs players know, other than Mitchell?
And what's going to happen is, what is the coach going to do at the first sign of adversity? And I'm talking the first sign of adversity when the Knicks give them that first punch. What if they lose game one? How do you actually adjust? Because we always talk about adjustments, but all adjustments are not the right adjustments, right? Sometimes you feel into this game of just adjusting just to do it, but you have to be sure that your adjustments are going to actually have an impact on the floor. So that's pressure there. On the flip side, though, it better be a lopsided result in terms of coaching. Tibbs cannot afford for this guy to come in and outcoach you. Tibbs already is under 500 in his career in the playoff. Tibbs now is going into the second test of, is his, flexibility, is it real? Because we're about to find out. Is it real? Was this just in the season to so that he wouldn't get fired? Was this just because him and the front office got together and said, all right, let's go with the kids. Let's go. I'm okay with sitting Derrick Rose. I'm okay with sitting Fournier. You guys are finally going to support me that I don't want Cam on this rotation. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Everything has worked out perfectly. But now is showtime. Now is pressure time. Will Tibbs make adjustments half to half? Will Tibbs make adjustments game to game? Will he trust some of these young players in a big spot? Or will he play Josh Hart 40 minutes just because of he's Josh Hart and he's a player he likes? Like, will he actually do it based on the flow and the rhythm of the game? I think that is a question mark. And we're about to find out because, Josh Hart has had not many, but he's had a few games where he wasn't as effective. And I wonder if that happens, what will the response be? I wonder if he's going to have a quick trigger on RJ, or will he stick to his template coaching? Like, we anticipate he will, but I want to see it happen. So there's a question mark there. So I think
even bigger, even not just RJ, JD, will he make the tougher decision? Randall, what if Randall's struggling?
Exactly.
What if Brunson's struggling? Will he give the ball to IQ? Which we saw him finally do it. Remember in that fourth quarter? But will he do it in the playoffs? That's I totally respect that fear.
Is it the same thing? Because it's the
same concern.
That Hawks series just is haunting all of us. Let's keep it real. Like, it's haunting all of us still. And we want to see, now is the moment to see true progress, not only in some of these players that are having the second go round from the Hawks series, but this head coach, right? Because in the end, guys, let's be honest, he's going to be back next year. And since we know he's going to be back next year, we want to have that confidence that, okay, we're really ascending. So let's see how Tibbs coaches. My true X factor is based on this answer. Let me ask you, Quis. You said Grimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree. However, who do you think is more important player to this team? Grimes or Quickly?
Quickly. Yeah.
So Quickly is my X factor. And the reason Quickly is my true X factor is he is that consolation to everything. Like, if Brunson's having a mediocre game, Quickly could be the next guy to elevate Brunson having a mediocre game, and he can pick it up. If Brunson's out for whatever reason, an injury, God forbid, knock on wood, all that stuff, then Quickly has proven, like he did in that Boston game, like he did in those other games without Brunson, that he can elevate. Quickly is that middle guy where you guys talked about in your answers to the question of, can we win a series without Randall? Quickly is a big reason why. So with Randall,
well, he's our second best player. We all decided that. If Randall's not available, Quickly's our next best player after Brunson.
And we cannot afford, I don't think we can afford Quickly to have bad games.
No.
I think if Grimes is giving me a solid defensive game, but is offensively, we can still win not only a game, we can win the series. I don't know if we can win a series if Quickly is not playing well. I don't know if we can win the series.
If Quickly's shooting 30%
from
three. He's shooting 30% from three, and he's not getting into the paint enough. We need him to be the Quickly that we saw while Brunson was out.
Needed to be the jack of all trades, because I think Quickly in this series is gonna experience many roles. He's going to experience the role of being the complementary player, but I think there's also going to be games once the Cavs start making adjustments and they start taking the ball off of Brunson, where Quickly's going to have to be a playmaker. And he's going to have to be one of our primary ball handlers because I don't think the Cavs are going to let Brunson beat them. So Quickly's responsibilities are, I think, going to be to another level. And based on the minutes he's going to play, to me, Quickly is the X factor because we just cannot afford him to have a bad series.
I also think we're going to probably see a lot of Brunson and Quickly sharing the floor. We're going to see a decent amount of minutes of them sharing the floor.
And worst case scenario, I know we don't expect it, but the only reason I'm not saying Grimes is because I want to be fair. I want to be flexible to a young kid that is going through something for the first. You talk about going into a tough first playoff experience. The kid has to think about making shots in the corner. That's already something he has to think about as a first-time playoff player. But now this guy has to, study film on his opponent defensively. Like he has to guard Donovan Mitchell. Like it's already hard enough for guys going to the playoff the first time. But we're asking Grimes to literally be a mini star in this series. And I just think worst case scenario, if RJ picks it up, I can see a lineup in key stretches where RJ's just small forward and Quickly's your two guard. Because I think Quickly's going to be a 36-minute at least minutes per game, 33 to 36 minutes in this series. So, and I think between Grimes and RJ, that's going to be interchangeable. I think Grimes is the favorite, but we'll see.
I like that. I agree. I mean, IQ, for sure. I mean, we don't win it. We barely could win 1 or 2 games without IQ being who he has been as of late, for sure. He needs to be that guy who could take over a game. And we said it. Remember, we said this is when IQ needs. When we were texting each other, IQ needs to take over this game right now. And boom, he did it, and we won. It was beautiful. We got a super chat from Parrish Duggar. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. Obi and RJ are equal at small forward. Both are bad on D, but Cleveland don't have a guy at small forward they can't handle, and Obi promotes better offense by being a connector. They do. Well, they have LeVert. He's the guy they've been using as their key small forward. Same with Okoro. But LeVert can disappear. He can disappear on you. So I kind of see this as pretty being an advantage Knicks in the end overall here on this. But RJ's fairly important, and I put this up here because we're going to transition to the next question. Which is the biggest one. There it is. Here it is, everybody. Man. This is it. This is going to test all of us.
Come on, RJ.
Come on, amigo. We need you.
We believe in you somewhat.
Yeah. Somewhat. You notice how I phrase this. I'm not saying he needs, putting it on him to lead us or anything like that. But can the Knicks actually win if RJ struggles? I'm not sure I have an answer for this. Because I could see both things. I feel like the Knicks, they've had to deal all season long with about half the time when RJ struggling. He'll still give you 19 points, 20 points, but it's an inefficient 20 half the time. Half the time it's great. I mean, he'll shoots 10 of 17, and 9 rebounds and 6 dimes, and he has and he'll can give you string 3-4 games together like that. And light it up for 40 points sometimes. But those times when he doesn't have it, he comes out and he's like 0 for 6 in the first half. What do you do in the playoffs? Quis.
Well, that's when it's going to come down to what you guys were talking about with Tibbs being an X factor, is whether or not Tibbs was going to pull him and put a guy in like Josh Hart. With the acquisition of a Josh Hart, I think we can definitely win if RJ, struggles. You would prefer him to be solid, but that shot is inconsistent at times. And you look at the Twin Towers that they have in the paint, he may find some difficulty on his drives trying to get enough space to put good shots up. So, yeah, he may struggle in this series, but I don't think it's going to be the end all if he does, because this team is extremely deep. And, you've seen a lot of rotations that don't have a lot of lineups that don't have RJ Barrett, where this team can continue to play well. So I think if he were to struggle, it would then come down to Tibbs making the right adjustments and putting in the proper players, whether it's Josh Hart, whether it's moving Quentin Grimes to the 3. And, we talk about who's the second best player on this team if Julius Randle is out. We all said Emmanuel Quickly. So if Emmanuel Quickly and Jalen Brunson are both cooking, I think we're still in a solid position to be, somewhere close to a winnable spot, even if RJ is struggling a little bit. So yeah, I think the Knicks can definitely win if RJ doesn't have, an explosion or offensive explosion. What I really don't want is for him to be a tragedy out there defensively. A lot of people talk about him offensively, but defensively, he's been an issue throughout this season. So, to answer your question, yeah, we can't win if he struggles.
All right.
I mean, if we can win with no Julius Randle, we can win if Julius Randle comes back and RJ struggles.
Okay. JD?
I think we can win if he struggles, because this is not necessarily a negative on him to say we can win if he struggles. It's a combination of, it's a testament also to the depth and the other young talent that we have on this team, that we can. But I don't think remember I told you guys, I think we can beat the Cavs with RJ struggling. I think we get smoked against the Cubs, against the Bucks, the Cubs, the Bucks. I think we'll get. I think we have no shot against the Bucks with a struggling RJ because of the matchup then against Middleton. But against the Cavs, I think we can win. But I don't know if the Knicks can afford him to have a bad series. How about that? Because as a franchise, RJ's getting a lot of, and I don't even know if I want to say disrespect or maybe it's correct assessment. I really don't even know how to term it. But around the league, like I was looking at some prognosticators and some quote unquote experts and all these other mainstream media outlets. And when they talk about the Knicks, they're not even mentioning RJ in terms of the core. It's like there's like this negative air around him now, around the league. And I think the franchise, the front office, has to be concerned about that when it comes to value in the marketplace, when it comes to, RJ being an ascending player, known to be that around the league, because I know fans don't like to look at it that way, but we have to look at this all around in terms of a franchise, a front office, potential moves, potential trades. Like, you need guys to play well to boost their value. Like, it's a good thing. You want that to happen. You want it to be a tough discussion. You want it to be, where if you have to pivot, you're able to do that and not have to give up more because you're sending out a player that's not, attractive in the marketplace. So yes, we can win, but I actually think if RJ doesn't have a good series, it could, in terms of the future of the franchise, immediate future, it could potentially be a negative to Leon Rose and some of the flexibility that it can give him. They already, remember,
we had that issue last summer. That's why we were so upset with Thibs last year, because he didn't feature the young guys. Hence, when trade season came around, the entire league undervalued our core. Now they see
how about now?
It's worked out for us, though.
It worked out for us in that respect. You're right. But when it comes to Quis, we've been talking about this, for us getting that next piece, we need our guys at the highest value possible, like what happened with the Suns with Mikal Bridges. They were able to pull that trade off because they valued him, and they had a tremendous value. Now, guys like IQ have that kind of value. But we need RJ to have to maintain his value. And I see what you're saying with that, JD, for sure. But I think we can win even if he struggles. But I will say, I like, for some, this is what I think. If Randall doesn't play and RJ struggles and we lose, it's going to be really difficult for the franchise. Really difficult. It's going to be really difficult. But if Randall doesn't play, RJ doesn't struggle, and we still lose, I think we're still in a good place. We're in a really good place. We just need him for the future to do well, whether he stays with the team or not. We need him to do well, obviously. But I do think we can win if RJ struggles and Randall plays. I think we can win. We've proven that we can. The thing is, it's just he's a certain type of player. I mean, his ability to get into the paint it's a pretty elite skill right now. He's one of the best at getting into the paint right now in the league. I think he's like 30th or something in the entire league. Brunson's like 8th or something. Guys have taken at least 50 drives or something.
That's impressive, George, to be 30th and not really be the featured player on your team.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. So and that's a special skill. But the problem is he has struggled against the Cavs. He only averaged 15 points a game in the 4 games against the Cavs. Though he had an excellent, the first game was excellent for him. Because overall, he's averaging 43.5% from the 3-point line against the Cavs. But it's really that first game that made the difference. Because if you look at only the games that they've won, he is shooting 36.8% from the 3-point line in the last 3 games against the Cavs. 38.1% overall. So even when he gets into the paint, he's connecting on just 3 out of 8. That's not that great. 3 out of 8. So he's struggling when he gets into the paint. He's definitely going to be a major factor in the Knicks being able to really take control of this series, especially that game 1.
If he plays well, those numbers you mentioned in terms of the season, I think those are significant because it goes to show you, we went 3-1 against the Cavs with RJ basically not even his normal self, let alone even decent. So that tells me that if he even plays solid, like you don't have to play very well to great. If he's just solid, the Knicks might win this earlier than people expect. Because
that's why I phrased it like this.
Because that means the Cavs haven't seen one, they haven't seen a game of RJ.
Just the
they
first
don't
game.
Even know how
just
to
the first game. And they won that game, but that was a weird game. It was also early in the dynamic of the Knicks. But yeah, you're right. If he comes out and starts, and we've seen him, he comes out, hits 4 of 6 right away. You're like, ooh,
he's the one player on this team that I'm rooting for the hardest. He needs a good series, man.
He needs a big series.
He needs to be it's funny because this could work in your favor. It seems like the majority of the fan base is so down on RJ that it can actually work in his favor because to me the expectations are so low on RJ as well. I think right now, if I tell you, will you sign up for 16 points per game on 45% shooting and 36% from 3, you're going to run to the table to sign that.
Yeah.
You're going to run to the table to sign that. And I think if he does that, yes, is that number 3 pick overall type of production that you expect? No.
It's irrelevant now.
But it's irrelevant now.
Yeah.
So it can work to his favor because I think the expectations are lower. So that's why I'm like, RJ, just reach that solid bar. Don't even be great. Just be good. Be okay. And that's going to be good enough that the fan base is going to support you.
Absolutely. And Parrish agrees with another super chat. Thank you so much, brother. He says, silliest thing is we think it's JR or Obi. No, it's RJ. RJ's got to come through. He must come through. But we can still win without him if he doesn't come through. We just can't have him shooting like 18%. That's just going to be catastrophic.
Yeah, he can't shoot us out the game.
Which we've seen him do.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen him do. So again, comes back to Thibs and how he manages that. But I think it's more of a challenge for Thibs if it's Randall struggling. Will he do the right thing? Will he put Obi back in the game? Will he put Randall at the 5 and force the Cavs to go small?
He won't.
Well, that's what we're talking about here.
Well, once you said Randall at the 5, I'm like, yeah, forget that.
Yeah,
Especially Randall with a bad ankle. That's right.
Randall with a bum ankle at the 5 and making those other guys chase the other guys around the courts. I mean,
Those
will
are
he
the type
do
of
it?
risks you got to take, though.
Yes, sometimes you got to take those risks. Experiment 5 minutes of that. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. Now let's get to this. What kind of a series do you genuinely believe RJ's going to have? Quis.
You want me to give you like percentages and like
Just in
per games?
Yeah. Like what kind of impact and results do you think? Like what range do you think he's going to give
Keep
us?
it real. Keep it real, Keith.
7 games.
What you really think is gonna happen?
And remember, think about his mentality. RJ's still an alpha. He's still an alpha. He's taken over games in the past with top players on the court. He still sees himself like that. What do you think, Keith?
I probably see him going anywhere from like 17, 18 points per game, maybe. And
Which
then
is solid,
yeah. And then field goal percentage. That's where it's going to be a little bit tricky because I don't expect him to shoot great from 3. If he can shoot 33, 34% from 3, I'll live with it. But from field goal percentage, might see him shoot anywhere from like 43, 44% from the field.
Okay.
I think he'll be decent. I'm not.
You think he'll be decent? I think
he'll be decent. I don't see him stinking up the joint.
You think he'll be a positive contributing?
Yeah, he'll be a solid contributor. The bigger question is whether or not I see him out there to close games. I think that's the bigger question, as opposed to what he might do in terms of his per game totals.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is predicated on how he's doing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's guaranteed to close every game regardless of how he's playing. I think it depends on how he's playing if he closes.
Yeah, there's only a couple guys that are going to get that type of liberty, and that's going to be Randall and Brunson.
Exactly. JD.
I tell you one thing, Keith. If he's shooting 33% from 3, it's going to be hard for me to see him play like, crunch time minutes. 33% in the playoffs from 3, that's tough. When you talk about also this matchup, possessions are very important. If it goes to where the pace rankings of these two teams has been throughout the season, where the Cavs do want to slow the game down and want to play half court, that means possessions are important, which means shooting is going to be important. And if RJ is going to shoot 33%, I think it's going to be a tough series in terms of him getting a lot of meaningful minutes in the series. Listen, this is my last chance to have faith in him. He's the homegrown talent.
You said it right there.
This is my last shot. I'm gonna say he's gonna surprise. He's gonna have a good series. Man, it's just hard to believe that all the thoughts into this series are negative on him. And I know he knows it. He's seen it. He was asked, and I said this on Knicks Fan TV, and I don't know how I feel about this actually, but after that Pacers game, he was asked about this matchup. And his response was, he said, I know there's a great player on the other side. Notice he said a great player. He didn't say great players. Who do you think he's talking about? Donovan Mitchell. And then he followed that up with saying, I'm equally excited about this series, this matchup. I'm personally excited about it. He said personally. So when you reference a specific player on the other side and then you say you're personally excited, that tells me that he is probably taking this personal. And remember the rumors about him taking personal the fact that the Knicks were ready to ship him out. He knew that the Knicks were, maybe minutes away from cutting a deal with Danny Ainge, and it didn't happen. He knew he was gone in that deal. And some people say maybe that has been a contributing factor to him having a subpar season. So if that's the case and you're taking this personal, I don't know if that's the type of mindset that I want him to have, because that tells me, as you mentioned earlier, George, he still sees himself as an alpha. And those are alpha-like comments to me. Mm-hmm. And I hope
that's how he sees himself.
I hope that was just media talk and him being young. Sometimes young players, they don't even know what they're saying to the media. They try to.
RJ Barrett's not that though. RJ Barrett is media trained.
Right. RJ Barrett is he's very
more
media savvy.
Yeah,
he's media savvy. He knows what he's saying. He knows what he says, how it can be interpreted. So I think there was some intention there, and everything is against him. I'm gonna say he's gonna have a solid series. I can't honestly say I'm so confident in saying that, but man, he needs to be okay. I'm gonna say 17 points per game, 46% field goal shooting. I think he's gonna shoot 35% from three.
From your lips to God's ears, bro.
You know, as I listen to you guys,
what you gonna say, George?
I mean, you know, like the thing that a lot of people overlook a lot is how important the mental aspect is, which is what you've been talking about. The mental aspect is the primary aspect of any professional athlete's performance, really, at this level. There are some guys, there's like those 10 guys that they're just whatever, they're in that other echelon. But then there's a whole bunch of guys that are stuck in this center area that really comes down to their mental approach that determines whether they elevate or descend. As we saw with IQ, he kept his mental process correct. He never let it distract him, all the noise and everything that was going on. And even if well, let me take that back. He did let it distract him. And that's why he was underperforming. And then when he finally locked in on what was important, which is you can have a good game even if you're not shooting well. So that single principle, and that's something that he said that came from Calipari, and then Thibs echoes it. You can have an impact on winning even if you don't shoot well. So that means you got to do your work on the defensive end. RJ has been struggling on that, though he's gotten better since the All-Star game. But listening to you, this is the biggest unknown to me, because I kind of have a feeling what we're going to get from Randall is if he's good to go, 90% Randall, he's going to be good. He's going to be productive. He had a great 3 games against the Cavs. RJ, it's really an unknown. It's hard to know, because if he does, here's the problem. RJ can be incredibly effective if he just limits his 3-point attempts to like 3 or 4 a game. Whether he hits any of them or not doesn't matter. We still need him to take them when he's open, because that's cripples an offense. It kills a possession. But let's say he takes 3 or 4 of them and hits 1 or 2 of them, and then he gets the rest of his buckets driving. Well, against this particular defense, it's going to be tough. And he has struggled against the Cleveland Cavaliers, driving and he gets blocked a lot. Now, the way he can turn it around is put them in a situation where they have to foul you at least every other time you drive. I mean, you really got to put pressure on them to foul you. And then there's the Mitch factor. Utilize the lob threat that Mitch gives you. And even, Obi in Hartenstein, because, he's going to play a lot with the second unit if Randall does start. It's tricky. I don't have I can't tell you. And you guys know me. I'm really optimistic. I love RJ, and I can't tell you what guy's going to show up because of the matchup that he has. If this was a different team and he just cut down on the 3, well, we're going to need him to shoot 3s. That's how you beat this team. You hit enough 3s. It pulls the defenders out towards you. They try to close out hard on you, and then you can get past them. And his mid-range game is not quite there yet, unlike we see with Grimes and with IQ.
Well,
And
Grimes don't really got much of a mid-range game.
He does. He
just
doesn't
develop
do
that
it.
out. He doesn't do it for a reason, George, because it's not really. You don't got that much trust in it.
He doesn't have. Yeah, maybe he doesn't have trust in it. But the few times I've seen him take a nice midi, he hits it. But RJ, he really struggles.
And
so it's going to be tricky.
And you mentioned the matchup. In comparison to Quickly, This is a tough matchup for Quickly, but here's why we're confident. Because Quickly now has developed a game inside the arc. He's developed the mid-range spacing of the floor where he can take a mid-range shot. He can take a stop and pop. His floater game has been redefined.
His little turnaround Brunson-esque jumper.
Brunson S. And when you look at the footwork, nobody cannot tell me that hasn't been as part of the relationship that he's built with Brunson throughout the season, because we've seen this kind of later in the season as he's been working on it. Now, late in the season, you see Quickly has kind of mastered these areas. And we talked about, because you could still see possessions where Quickly has trouble getting by certain players. But now he's relied on his game inside the arc. And that has been Quickly's counter to not being the most explosive guard in the NBA, not being the most athletic guard in the NBA. That is what's missing from RJ. And the problem in this matchup is he hasn't developed that inside, that mid-range game. So it's either going to be, you're going to shoot the corner three, which is going to be key for his position. But here's the problem. 2 years ago, he was shooting 43% from the corner three. Last year,
he was best in the NBA.
Yep. Last year, 31% from the corner three. This year, 32% from the corner three. He's going to get corner three opportunities in this series. So if you're not going to be effective from the three-point line, and then you are going to be effective driving, but you're going to be contested at the rim by Allen and Mobley, then where is his effectiveness going to come from?
Exactly.
Because he just hasn't developed a mid-range game, and he doesn't, take those opportunities.
He doesn't also have that touch that you need around the rim, to be able to didn't understand the little spins and angles and he has been trying to lately use the high backboard sometimes, those are the kind of things that he hasn't shown that mastery of yet. So right now, that's
why we're struggling with this question, because of we're like, okay, you're not if you're not
we're struggling
from the three, and you're not going to finish at the rim, or you're going to be a 7-game series against these two great defenders, then we're starting to where is it going to come from?
So that said, just to stay on this topic, it's, to me, he definitely will not thrive, but he could thrive, or it would benefit him to share the floor more so with Hartenstein than with Mitch. Get Hartenstein a little bit further out, get him on the elbow, get him 15 feet away from the basket, maybe even have him behind the three-point line in the corner. That at least draws one of those big guys out.
I'll do you one better. Put the ball in iHeart's hands, have RJ be more of a slasher, and have iHeart find RJ when he's cutting to the basket. Because then at least iHeart's man is out of the paint a little bit, and it gives him more room to breathe.
And I have a question for you guys on RJ. Want me to ask it now? All right. First, shout out to the Entertainer Talking Sports in the chat. That's my guy.
What's up, man? And shout out to D Nice. What's up, David L. Capo.
Have to give a shout out to the Entertainer. That's one of my best guys here on YouTube, and personally as well. We have a good relationship. So shout out to you. Go Giants. Go Knicks.
Adrian Reality. What's up, brother?
Let's go. Question for you guys. Do you guys think, and you don't have to answer it to try to be right, just answer it kind of how you feel inside of you. Do you feel how do you feel when I ask you this? Do you think RJ Barrett in these playoffs is playing for his future as a New York Knick?
Definitely. I think his future might already be decided.
I
think
like
that.
They almost shipped him out last offseason.
Yeah.
You see the emergence of Quick. You see the emergence of Grimes. We can't pay everybody, and somebody has to be moved to bring in an additional star.
In other words, you saw how this front office was behind Randall after a tough year.
Mm-hmm.
Will they be the same with RJ?
RJ's had 3 tough years out of 4.
I think. Wait, ask it again.
Do you think RJ Barrett in these playoffs is playing for his future as a New York Knick?
Yes. Is that's the answer. Yes. And it goes both ways. If he balls out and he's one of the key reasons we win this series, then it makes it definitely, it's a win-win for the Knicks, but it does make the future decisions a little more difficult. Because then you're like, all right, well, can you keep replicating this? It's like, which is the RJ we're going to get next season? Is he going to be that incredible playoff RJ, or is he going to be, the up and down roller coaster RJ? It's going to create it's going to create more questions, more doubts, in a weird way. It's like, okay, well, what do we do in the off season? But it will increase his value, which is good. And they could ship him out for, a Paul George type guy. Who knows? I don't want to get into specifics, but
it better not be for Paul George.
Dame Lillard, you never know. But I think he definitely, this playoff series will severely impact RJ's future regardless. Whether he stays a Knick, goes where it's going to determine where he goes. If he's not a Knick, his playoff performance will be big. Because, and I said it last night again on that stream, and I said it in the post game, and you guys heard, Clyde said it. You make your name in the regular season, you make your fame in the postseason. So this could be.
He said such a tough spot, because I'm sure that this conversation we just had on him, and based on the answers you guys are giving, it's hard for him to say to himself, okay, like, what is enough for this franchise to stay with me? Like
25, 7, and 5, and we win this in 6. He does that.
But even if he's solid, but what I'm saying is
efficient defensively.
But even if he's solid, if he does the minimum of what we were saying, like 16, 17 points, 45, 44% or whatever,
then he's out. I think
it's like, is that enough?
No, I don't think so.
Because he's a budding star to stay.
On the flip side, what's going to happen is, if we win this series and he's just there, and then we give the Bucks a tough series, the conversation is going to be, we're right there. We're a piece away.
Mm-hmm.
And then where else are you going to look around the roster to upgrade the roster? They're not going to trade Quickly or Grimes. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're not going to trade Randall and Brunson.
Yeah,
like, where else are you looking for?
Quis is right. Like, he's gone then. If he gives you, if he gives you kind of what he's been giving you, which is still contributes to winning, but it's definitely, you can replace it. See, that's the thing. You can replace that.
Quis is so secure. RJ and Obi.
Who else we giving up, bro? Sims? Deuce?
I know it hurts George bad when he hears Obi. It started to hurt me though, the way
Obi got that special pop potential. I mean, he has it. He just got to fucking the rebound better, which he did finally after that one. Yeah, only had one rebound. Rebound better, distribute the ball a little more, and he started doing that. Attack the rim more. He started doing that. Take guys off the dribble from the 3-point line. He started doing that. So he's been doing the things that we've been saying he's got to do, and now he's doing them. He's doing them effectively.
Yep.
He's just a special player in terms of his ability to. And you were saying something earlier talking about Randall. I think Obi gets easier buckets than Randall does. I think
he's leaking out all the time.
Yeah, he's leaking out, but even still, when he slices through, he's able to get between defenders, lay the ball. Now he was missing a few of those when he was struggling, but when he's on point, he gets easier buckets than Randall. Randall, he struggles a lot. It's like he's battling, bumping, dun, and dribble, which, he's cutting that down, and we can't really have that in the playoffs too much. Of course, you're going to have some of that, but I think Obi scores with much more ease. His defense is the thing that's got to pick up. But when you look at his defensive metrics,
I mean, you say that, George, because Obi doesn't really create for himself a lot of times. So a lot of times he's getting set up by other guys. So it appears he's getting easier buckets. But Julius Randle, he's going to have to work for his because he's creating for himself.
Yep, totally. All right. Well, it looks like RJ. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating. He has a great series. Like I was saying, something around, averages mid-20s, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, three turnovers. Is kind of like a neutral player on defense. Then he
Look at
makes
that. You got to say neutral on defense, George. You can't even say decent.
Well, that's what I mean by decent. I know. So, I mean, that's what I meant by decent, but still, I mean, like where he's not hurting you. Then you're like, okay, this guy is good because his ability to take over a game should be definitely respected. When the ball's in his hands, he's in that second unit, and he's racing up the court, and he's assessing what the defense is about to do, and he decides to just cut right through and get to the bucket. It's beautiful. And if he encounters congestion, he finds Obi in the corner or whoever's on the right corner. That's beautiful, perfect basketball. That's what I want to see. And he has the ability to do that. But it's when he struggles. One thing, just to, defend RJ a little bit in his three-point shooting, I've noticed, and I don't have the actual numbers or anything, it's just merely off the top of my head, but often when he's on the floor and the shot clock's down to like 2 seconds, they dump the ball to him. And he's like behind the three-point line. He's not really set up. It didn't come off a drive to the paint and he kicked it out there. I mean, he was wide open. A lot of times he's getting it in not the best moment. He's got to shoot it, and that impacts his numbers a lot.
Yeah, George, they gave it to him 9 times with 2 seconds left on the shot clock, and he missed all of them. Sure.
He missed all of them. Look at that. That's torturous. All right, we got one more slide at the end. Before we get to that, take a break here. Shout out the chat and get to. I think we got a super chat here.
From Jay.
Yeah, here we go. From Jay. What's up, brother? Appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Great collab. I asked Sim this. What are you nervous about? Does Randall have more pressure than ever now to produce? Interesting question. This is a good question. And it actually, it's a good question. It's a good question because the following, our fifth slide that we have, it's going to be interesting to talk about that after discussing this.
Let's get to 100 likes. We got over 130 people in the chat. Let's get to 100 likes. We got 70 likes. Let's get to 100 likes. Let's go, guys. It's free.
Let's go. Hit that thumbs up button.
Hit
Subscribe
that thumbs up button for your
TV.
boys.
Subscribe to KFTV. Subscribe to Into the Knicks-Verse. These are our content channels for our Knicks playoff season that we got going here. 2 years ago, the three of us got on together to do that live. Remember that? And we were just like giddy as hell. Like, what the hell happened? It's incredible for the season. And then that series totally destroyed us.
Facts.
I don't think that's gonna happen this year. There's a much better team, much deeper team, and Thibs is a better coach for this team now, for the players he has, and he has more players that are the type of players that he needs as well. That Josh Hart trade was instrumental in that. But this is a great question. It's 2 questions though. It's 2 questions. Let's answer the Randall one first.
Okay.
Does Randall have more pressure than ever now to produce? I'm going to give it to the biggest Randall fan on the planet.
It ain't me.
Marquise.
I don't think Randall has more pressure now to produce because he's got an outlet in a guy like Jalen Brunson. So I think if we do see this team struggle, I don't think Randall's going to get the brunt of the blowback. He's coming back from injury. He's got a tough matchup in the Cavs. So no, I don't think we've got enough of a supporting cast that I don't think the blame is going to be heaped on Julius Randle unless he goes out there and does something stupid. If he goes out there and has a boatload of turnovers and he's the reason that cost us the game, then yeah, he's going to have more and more pressure as the series continues. But I think if this team, does struggle for some reason, I don't think it's going to increase the amount of pressure on Randle, especially with him coming back from injury.
But what about what we were saying? Like, what if he's not able to play and we win without him? Like, does that amp up the pressure on him, or does that take off pressure on him?
Well, then I'm
and we're talking about him specifically,
he's going to return
himself, not external pressure. We're talking about the way I read this is, does Randall have more pressure than ever now to produce? I think that's more an internal pressure. That's the way I'm reading that question.
I said, nah, I think he has much more help. I think I think he probably feel more pressure in that Hawks matchup when he was doing it with the likes of Reggie Bullock and Alfred Payton, when he was relied solely as being the engine of the offense. But now you look at it the way we're built now, he has other outlets and other players that can help pick up some of the slack. So I don't think he should have more pressure on him now to produce.
JD, what do you think?
I am all the way on the other side.
I think he does have a lot of pressure.
I think he does. The reason I think he has, now, again, I'm answering the question, him individually. This is not, what Nick in the team has the most pressure. That's another topic. That's another conversation, because I think that's probably RJ. But in terms of him, I think he does have the most pressure now to produce, because I understand he has Brunson, but that's, to me, that should be another reason why he should have more pressure, because he's in the best position now to produce. This is the main reason why he's had a great season. One of the main reasons. I'm not going to say the main, because him himself, you want to give him credit, but one of the main components to him having a great season is the acquisition of Brunson. So if he totally flops in the playoffs, now you're talking about 2 playoff series as a New York Knicks where you didn't produce. And now we're looking as a franchise what we're going to do. Because if we're asking right now, a lot of people are pretty confident they're going to have to make a decision between him and Obi. And right now, it looks likely that Obi's going to be the guy out. Right? I think we can all agree that that's what it looks like, especially with the way they've been behind.
Randall's going to be a third-team All-NBA.
Right. Yeah. So he's going to be third-team All-NBA. So he's going to get the same accolades he got against the Hawks, that Hawks season. And you're going to tell me that he's not going to produce in the playoffs, and we're still going to ship Obi and still keep this guy here? Like, you're going to try to sell me that this guy now is going to be a future piece to a championship puzzle, and we haven't seen him produce in the playoffs yet? I mean, that's a pretty tough sell on a guy that's making over $100 million.
And but you're saying if he doesn't perform, we're saying right now, before he actually steps onto that court,
he has the ton of pressure.
Does Randall have more pressure than ever now to produce?
Of course.
Yeah.
George, if he doesn't produce now, when will he produce?
I agree with both of you. I agree with both of you. And I'll explain why I agree with both of you.
George is the man in the middle.
I'm the man. No, I agree with both. I agree. I see what Quis is saying. Like, look, his life's much easier now. He's got a bona fide. I mean, let's just call it. Jalen Brunson is one of the best point guards in the game. The guy's playing like a superstar. He's going to get you a bucket when you desperately need it. He knows how to break down a defense. He knows how to find you. The guy is him. He's a him. It's fantastic. That does take more pressure off Randall in its totality, in its generality. But individually, as a player, as a person, Randall shit the bed so badly 2 years ago that stink carried with him all last season. It took Brunson coming to this team for him to finally kind of get over it. And he has, which is great. But if he underperforms this year, that's devastating pressure. And I think he feels that. He knows that he wants to be great in the playoffs to make up for what happened 2 years ago. So that's pressure. Now it's how he handles it. Pressure doesn't mean it's bad. Pressure is not necessarily a negative. I thrive under pressure personally. When shit is like for real. In fact, sometimes when I used to play tennis, like I didn't even give a shit about the first 4 or 5 games in a set. I didn't even care until I was like down 3-1, whatever. Then I was like, okay. Then I got into it. Some people thrive under pressure. Pressure is not necessarily a negative thing. So in that respect, I see both sides. I do think that the pressure that Randall can put on himself could be detrimental and make him fold, or it can make him rise. It depends. It didn't work 2 years ago, so we'll see.
But George, the way I'm looking at it is, like, I understand, like, it's such an interesting, it's a multi-layered question, because the way Quis is saying it is true in terms of this series. in the grand scheme of things of, we were
He's got
answering,
a
can we
deeper
win it?
team. He's got a deeper team. The coach is
Right.
better this year, the way he's handling the team. He's got IQ alone, 6th man of the year.
Right.
He's got Brunson, the most improved player. I mean, Mitch Robinson, he's going to have Mitch this year.
Right. But I'm looking at it as long term when, like, if we can't count on Randall being a piece, then we're back to the whole mid conversation. We're back to in the offseason trying to figure out, okay, we thought maybe we were a piece away because Brunson and Randall stamped themselves. We thought, but now we may be a couple pieces away. Like, Randall is an important part of that question for the front office, is how far are we truly away? And if he produces the way that he's been doing in the season, then we are likely only a piece away, and that's when RJ comes into the conversation as the most important Knick. But if Randall, as you mentioned, shits the bed in the playoffs, then we're back to square one, in my opinion. Like, we got Brunson as a star, but now we're back to square one as to how do we continue to build this roster to be a championship team?
Let's paint out exactly what that scenario would be. Close game, game 6. It's close. Right? It's at the Garden, right? Game 6 would be at the Garden, or whatever it is. Yes. It's at the Garden, right? And we're up 3-2. We can close it out. Ball's in Randall's hands, dribbles it off his foot. Come back, but Cleveland scores. Come back. Try to dump it into Randall down low. He gets blocked. Doesn't get a foul call. He's angry. Gets a technical. Come on down. You know what I mean? It just starts falling apart. And then he ends up committing 3 or 4 turnovers. We see him do it constantly. He does it too often. And then we end up losing that game. Goes to game 7, and we lose. That's where all those questions start coming up. Is Randall the kind of guy you can depend on for a deep playoff run? Is he, but if the reverse happens, he takes care of business, or he doesn't get in his own way, and instead of dribbling the ball off his foot, he passes it. And then he gets it later. He does a nice little turnaround, baseline jumper, ties the score, keeps us around, keeps us in the game, gives us 28 points, only commits 2 turnovers. Yes, then he's an answer. He's an answer. So it is a tricky, multi-layered question. It's not as simple as, I think he meant, like, is the world going to put more pressure on Randall now to produce? I think it's already baked in.
I still think he had more pressure on him in that Hawks
he
series
did have
than
more
he did.
pressure.
So, and that answers the question: does Randall have more pressure than ever now to produce? If he had more pressure in the Hawks series, then the answer would be no.
How about this? I think he has more pressure now than the Hawks series, because I think in the Hawks series, he was the guy, and it's like, do you really expect him as the number 1 option? Now he was so bad that it was like, man, like, you were very bad, but now he's playing in the role that we think he could be in a championship team, that 2nd/3rd option. Like, that's his role now. If he can excel in the role that we are designing for you, we got Brunson to push you down the ladder. So we put you in the positions. If you can't excel on this role, then you're not a piece to this championship puzzle. That's how I look at it.
That's why I agree with that other aspect. But it's like 2 ways of looking at the pressure itself, and it's tricky. I think, Quis is right. And compared to 2 seasons ago, it did look like there was more pressure, but our expectations weren't as high as.
What are y'all nervous about? Because I have an interesting
second part of this. What are we nervous about? What are you nervous about? I'll answer it straight out, and maybe it'll calm the whole thing down. I ain't nervous about shit.
Oh,
I ain't nervous about shit.
Are you surprised he answered that, Keys, the way he's been sending those messages in the group chat?
Not surprised one bit.
House money, baby.
George probably putting money down on a
free roll. Vegas had us not even a 500 team. We were going to be in the play, and maybe we're lucky. We're 5th seed. We're right there. We're going to take care of business with the Cavs. I am not nervous at all. I just want to watch these games. I'm not really nervous. I think our future's bright. Let's put it this way, if we were the Cavs, I would be nervous. Gave up all my draft picks, sent out some nice young pieces. Yes, I got Donovan Mitchell, but if I can't even get out of the first round, what the hell do we got here? But it's the inverse. We still have all our draft picks. We have a beautiful, wonderful, deep bench. The young core is thriving. Everybody in the young core has improved this season. Everybody except for RJ. And even he still gave us similar to what he gave us last season. You know, it's somewhat comparable. It wasn't like a complete fell off the table, even though it feels kind of like it because we wanted him to go up. But by him plateauing, it kind of feels like he regressed. Didn't really regress.
No, because Quickly's taken off. It feels like
Quickly's taken off.
regressed.
Grimes, Grimes, even Obi, he's picked up from where he was last season towards the end of the season. So in that respect, I'm not nervous at all. I'm just here to enjoy it. It's going to be fun as hell. Can't wait. What about you guys? What about you, Quis?
my biggest concern, or what I'm nervous about, is the fact that the Cavs, if the Cavs find a way to actually contain Jalen Brunson, he's the head of the snake. So if they have a Okoro, he's healthy and he's able to get big minutes and he's able to neutralize Jalen Brunson, who else is going to be able to pick up the slack for a full 7-game series? Okoro's not going to lock Jalen Brunson up for the majority of the season or the series. You expect him to have some games where he'll still go off, but we need Jalen Brunson to go off every single game for us to really be competitive. And if Okoro or Bickerstaff is able to scheme something up that takes the ball out of Brunson's hands and then forces it, into a guy like Emmanuel Quickly or Quentin Grimes or even RJ's hands, and they're not ready for the moment, what happens then? So to me, that's what got me concerned, a little nervous.
A little nervous, but are you really concerned that if that happens that IQ won't be able to step up?
I mean, I haven't seen much of it, so I don't really know what to expect from some of these young guys. I'm just praying for the best.
So it's a concern for you. Okay. Mr. De Leon?
I'm nervous about
Senor De Leon.
I'm nervous about us. I'm it's funny. I'm not really nervous about anything in particular within the series. So I guess I'm in a line with you, George, surprisingly. But I'm nervous about a specific scenario playing out. I'm nervous about this scenario playing out. Cavs winning 5. And Donovan Mitchell. Remember that earlier in the show I said for the Cavs, one of the things I think the Cavs need to win this series is Donovan Mitchell be far and ahead the best player of the series.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about Cavs winning in 5 and Mitchell being far and ahead the best player of the series. 40. Like he went to that level. In terms of this season, Cavs have had a great season, 4th seed, 50-win team, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now in the playoffs, he elevates his game. He puts past that whole Brunson history. He cooks us and Brunson, and the Cavs win in 5, which is the same result as the Hawks series. And then the talk will be, especially mainstream, the Knicks made a huge mistake. The headlines are going to be, oh, you thought you were close. You're not. You're so far ahead from what you really thought. You guys were frauds. You came into this, do the same thing. You got Brunson and still went out in 5 games. And look at who you let go. A guy that's clear in the head. You thought Brunson could be in par with this guy, but we see when the moment came, in the moment, the stage, the pressure, national TV, playoffs, we flopped.
Yeah,
that scenario happens, I'm gonna have nightmares.
Yeah, if that scenario, and I think I mentioned this either last night or in the post game. I think I said, if Cavs pull off a gentleman's sweep, then we need to reassess everything. If Randall's healthy, if Randall's 100% healthy, at least from game 2 on, and they still pull off a gentleman's sweep, because I just don't think Randall's going to play tomorrow. It's too soon, but you never know. They could be giving us a ropey dope.
A little bit of gamesmanship.
Yeah, a little gamesmanship, and if it is great, but if he's 100% great, but if he plays and we get gentlemen swept, yeah, it's going to be an ugly summer. But then if you take a bigger picture, if you take a satellite view of this, it's still not the end of the world. We still got the 5th seed. We won 47 games, and we did it with a combination of our incredible free agent signing and our young core, we're positioned beautifully. We got our draft picks. We have a front office that doesn't make the knee-jerk decisions that can be counterproductive. So yes, the external noise will be there. We're going to hear it from everybody. The Knicks choked, the Knicks underperformed. We're going to hear it, but the reality is going to be we're still good. That's why I'm not nervous. That's why I'm not
We're
nervous.
gonna hear that if we lose, we're gonna hear that same talk.
If we lose in 7, we're going to hear
lost
that.
the Spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know what JD's saying.
Do you guys believe we're on the cusp of being next level contention right now going into it? Is that the fit? Well,
Absolutely.
that's why. Well, then if we get smoked,
yeah,
that's gone to me. It's gone. I don't want. There's no way you could sell me that we're close.
Yeah.
If you believe right now before game 1, we are on the cusp of saying you get us Jaylen Brown, we're championship contender. You get us, Mikal Bridges.
I will say this though. A lot of it's going to come down to the factors.
How we lose the 5.
Yeah, how we lose the 5. I don't want to get into it because let's say a bad injury or some crazy fight. Look, I've watched all this shit. I've seen the Knicks. We were right there. The Knicks were the only team who could have beaten the Michael Jordan Bulls, but they never got the chance because they had a stupid fight. And you never know what could happen. So it depends on the scenario behind it. But if it's similar to the Hawks series, and they just beat us in 5 games, yeah, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, if we offer no resistance, it'll be rough. But I mean, look how young this team is. Even if we do lose in a gentleman's sweep, you've got a lot of young guys that are going to get better next season. You've got Jalen Brunson; he's still young.
We're
Randall's
the 3rd
still young.
youngest team in the playoffs.
Yeah, so if we struggle in the first round, if it's a young team, you expect those things to happen from time to time. Yeah. But I just want us to rebound next season and take off.
Bulls up 4 with 8 minutes to go in Miami.
Whoa. Oh yeah, ooh baby, I haven't even checked it. All right, let's get to the last question here.
That kind of leads into the last question, right?
Yes, here we go. Kind of. Who will dominate? And we've kind of been hitting on this here. We haven't said exactly who. We've discussed what scenarios would happen if Brunson dominates, Spider dominates, someone else might dominate. But in this particular scenario, this particular matchup right here, these 2 guys, who will dominate in this series? Will it be Jalen Brunson or Spider, or will neither dominate? That's a possibility.
Both dominate. That's a possibility too.
Or they both can dominate for their team, but to dominate the other team will be the tricky thing. In the last game, we saw Donovan Mitchell he came out on fire, lit us up. He scored 25 in the first quarter. But then our guy Brunson scored 22, and he ended up outscoring Spider in that entire game by the end of it. So this is more of a fun question. We don't even have to get that serious into it because it's more just for fun and speculation. But I think definitely Spider is going to try his best to dominate. And he has the experience, he has the savvy, and he has the offense structured so that he can dominate. I think he'll have a great opportunity to do it, but I think in the end he's going to get tired battling the Knicks. We have a lot of fouls to throw at him. We got Josh Hart now, Grimes. We can even put Deuce on him at times. Let RJ struggle with him for a few moments here and there to give him a different look. Randall can get out there on him sometimes. We can definitely frustrate him. But if he dominates and Brunson dominates, it's going to be an outstanding series.
Thanks.
But who do you think is going to dominate? JD?
Brunson or Spider? I think when to cut his webs, they're not going to stick to the walls. So I'm going with Jalen Brunson. How can I not go with Brunson?
Let's go.
I think Brunson, that last game meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. Him responding, because if you remember the rhythm of that game, Mitchell got hot first. He got hot early, like a few minutes earlier than Brunson. Then Brunson caught on late, which was his response to Donovan Mitchell's hot first quarter. And Brunson understanding how important that game was at that point for the season for the Knicks with the whole tiebreakers and the 4th seed and the 5th seed and all that stuff. Him responding that way, and then his history against Spider. I think this is a little mental thing for Spider more than it is for Brunson. Spider has to think about, man, I can't guard this guy.
Spider has more pressure on him.
He does, because I don't think he wants to guard Jalen Brunson. And if you saw the way on a film standpoint, now we want to talk about breakdowns. Well, now we want to get into strategy. The way the Knicks played that game, they were playing a lot more pick and rolls than usual and putting Mitchell in those pick and rolls to get the switch on the Cavs side so that they can get the. When do you hear that in the NBA where you have a star on the other end setting picks so they can get the other star on the other team to get to guard you? Don't really hear that a lot around the NBA, but in this case, because Donovan Mitchell is he's a weak defender, but he's also a weak defender, but he's such a good matchup to Brunson. Like Brunson's mobility and his footwork, his shiftiness is a problem for Donovan Mitchell's body, is a problem for Donovan Mitchell's stance. The way Donovan Mitchell plays defense, the twitchiness of Brunson really he just freezes for a split second. And that's how Brunson's always able to go by him. And Brunson has picked up on that from a technique standpoint. That's why it's such a great matchup for Brunson one-on-one against Mitchell. So in addition to this being a matchup that these guys can actually defend each other throughout the series, I think Brunson will prove to the world once and for all, especially you, George, because you was hating. But Brunson, once for all, finally is going to stamp himself, because now it's national TV. He's going to stamp to the world that this guy is a legitimate star. And I think this is going to be his opportunity. And I think we're all going to see it unfold.
All right. Quis?
How about you?
Yeah, I got to side with JD as well. I'm going with Brunson. I think he'll be the one to dominate. You mentioned it earlier. We've got a lot of players that we can kind of throw at Spider to kind of throw him off his game. But who do the Cavs really have as an answer for a Jalen Brunson? They've only got Okoro, and he's a little gimpy himself. So if you look at the matchup and you look at what Brunson has been able to do against them, you have to be extremely confident that Brunson can go out there and impose his will against the Cavs. And also, as you know, JD was mentioning, it was seek and destroy when Donovan Mitchell was out there. And that's another reason why I felt like Quentin Grimes was an X factor, because a lot of times you saw Donovan Mitchell matched up on Grimes and they had Grimes set the screen to try and get that switch. So if the Cavs do try to adjust and then start to try to trap or, double Jalen Brunson when they try to do that little wrinkle, it'll give Grimes an opportunity to get some open looks. So I think Brunson is definitely going to be the one that'll dominate. Me saying Brunson is going to dominate doesn't mean that Spider won't be able to go off himself. But I think if you look at the end of the series and see which player was more impactful, I think Brunson's going to be the one.
I agree. I think they're both going to dominate, to be honest. But I think Spider's going to have to work harder to dominate. Brunson, he plays at one mode. Yeah, he's always go. He's at max effort. He'll slice into the paint. He'll do those little spin moves. He's always going to play that way. Spider, I think he's gonna still give you 35 points, maybe even 40 points, but it's going to cost him. It's going to be tiring for him. And I think over the stretch of the series, that's why the Knicks are going to end up winning this series. But I think they're both going to dominate. And in the end, Brunson will end up the victor once again, like he was last year when they were at Dallas and Utah. They were both in different teams. It's wild. And it's going to make the whole story even better. And for all we know, Donovan asks for a trade after this. To New York!
Here George goes.
Oh, man. Yeah. I think
Quick question off topic. Who do you guys think it gives a tougher matchup We don't have to get into conversations, just an answer. Who do you guys think, because this game is going into crunch time, Bulls and Heat, out of those two teams, who you think gives a better, tougher matchup to Milwaukee? Because that could play into effect for us if we're going to go in. I mean, everybody's thinking this Knicks CAVS series is going to be a long 6-7 game series. You want the Bucks to be a 6-7 game series too, especially since we believe the Knicks are going to advance. You also want to think about your opponent, your next round opponent, not getting as much rest as, I want Middleton, to put some games on those knees.
Yeah. Quis, you want to take that one?
Bulls or Heat, Quis? Who you think gives the Bucks a tougher matchup?
I'd go with the Bulls, especially with the way Levine been playing recently.
You go with the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well, remember, I was always high on the Bulls, but then Lonzo got hurt.
So both teams were 2-2 against the Bucks. They were both 2-2. I think they're kind of similar teams in a lot of ways. Bam is the Bulls don't have anyone like a Bam, but Jimmy and DeRozan kind of similar. Hero and
Don't say Hero and Levine or something.
Levine, they kind of give you.
We're not about to go there.
They're not the same, but there's that other scorer that can get their own bucket when they need to. Shoot from the outside, drive. Of course, Levine is a much better finisher, but they're similar team. They're similar teams. It's hard. I was thinking,
similar levels of mid, right, George?
Yeah, similar levels of mid. Caruso being back, Caruso only played once for the Bulls against the Bucks. They did win that game, so maybe with Caruso back, that makes maybe the Bulls.
And they went they had like an overtime game too. Like they made the Bucks work.
Yeah, they made them work. I think the Bulls might be the one that makes the Bucks work a little more. Also, the Bulls. I don't know. The Heat have a lot to prove too. It's a tough one. I think either one is going to.
And since the All-Star break, I think the Bulls are ranked like number 1 in defense. I saw some wild stat, like their turnaround has been crazy. Something they have number 1 in some type of efficiency. I don't know if it's number 1 in defensive efficiency, but there was a stat I saw online.
Well, they were 5th for the whole year. Chicago Bulls in defensive rating
between Dosunmu, Caruso.
They're right below the Bucks in defensive rating, where Miami was 9th.
And right now, Miami has 80 points, and it's 5 minutes left in the fourth against them. So
that's the thing. I just don't think like Miami can put up enough points to make the Bucks sweat. Where the Bulls, Levine can go off for 38. Same with DeRozan, and I think the Bulls will be for us. Will be a better if we get past the Cavs, which we will. We will. There was one last super chat here from Paris Duggar again. Thank you so much, man. At 60 and a fierce competitor. I can't believe we're putting our fate in RJ hopes. It's killing the I want to win fan. RJ can fix himself this summer. Yeah, JD, you were talking a lot about this. Like the fan base is split. There's people that they're fans but they want to succeed with RJ succeeding as well. Then there's those fans that only see our future real success being without RJ when we move RJ. So it's a tricky situation. We are in a tough spot with him, which is why he is probably the most important player in the playoffs for the franchise right now.
You can make the argument that acquiring Brunson with Randall has actually speeded the process, and therefore it's affecting RJ, who seems to be, showing signs of a potential late bloomer, a potential guy that just needs additional time to develop.
Development is not linear. It's not linear, and sometimes it takes guys a couple extra years to figure it out.
And with the Knicks prospering, some people are of the mindset that, like, the bus is over here. We're waiting for you to get on the bus. You're keeping us.
It's like he keeps losing.
Holding us behind.
He keeps losing his token. It's like,
like you're holding us back from getting to where we need to go. And I think part of that is now. I think earlier the fan base was on that rebuilding mode and let's go with the kids. Let's try to get a lottery pick, all that stuff. But now everybody's like, yo, we got here. Might as well just go for it. Let's try to win. And since RJ has had a setback year, it's kind of divided the fan base on him.
Yeah, he's officially taken over the role of being the most polarizing player from Julius Randle. That's for sure.
Yes, he has, which is sad because I believe like I actually when Mike Breen expressed those sentiments in that last game of the season, it's exactly the way I feel about RJ. I feel that the way his mental makeup is set up where he will reach his ceiling eventually. The question is, what is his ceiling? And is his ceiling something that works in the construct of a contender? Those are the major issues. I think he will reach his ceiling. Is his ceiling, more of like a Tobias Harris? Just picking, not that their styles are the same, but like in terms of how they contribute as the third guy, or is his ceiling, just he can never really give you winning basketball the way he ends up approaching the game. I don't believe that. I do believe that he can be a contributor on a contender. I think he could be the third guy on a contender. He's still 22, still really young. I know it's 4 years, but he's still really young. He might have been one of those guys that look at Grimes that helped him staying in school. What did he say, 3 years? Grimes stayed 3 years, but he was really young when he went to Kansas. I think they're almost the same age, Grimes and RJ.
I think
Grimes
a year older.
Is 22, yeah. At Quick is 23, and then RJ is 22 as well, I believe.
Right, and right, but Grimes played 3 years in college, right? Two at Houston and one at Kansas.
Grimes is going to be 23 next month in a few weeks.
Right,
May
so
8th.
they're about the same age, and then RJ turns 23 in June. So I believe that he will get it together. But like you said, bringing in Brunson sped up the timeline. So now we're here. We're like, we could actually contend if RJ had popped. We could be right now. We'd be the fourth seed, and then so that's where it is a little frustrating.
I will say the concern for me is you look around the team, how many of these young kids have played better with Brunson here, and it served true in Randall's case when we said in the offseason, maybe all this stuff about Randall, maybe he just needs a point guard that's effective, that can take some pressure off, but also a point guard that he can respect. And we've seen that in Brunson, and you saw the benefits of that. I'm surprised that that RJ has not been able to pop a little bit with Brunson here, not having that additional pressure. That is concerning for me. The other thing is, George, to where you say he's gonna reach his ceiling. I think the only way, I don't want to say the only way because but I'm gonna say it's hard for me to see him elevate to star status if he doesn't develop a game inside the arc like Quickly did. That's why I give Quickly so much credit.
I agree,
because
but I think he
was
can do
able.
it. He can do it.
Yeah, I think he can do it.
We've seen him have nice stretches.
We've
where
seen
he's
glimpses of it.
Yeah, that's a nice little 7-footer, little floater. Uses the backboard. We've seen it. Then he goes away from it. But
so I don't know if it's a training thing in the offseason. He needs to reevaluate his training. Whether it's people he's around or whatever the workout regimens is, but he needs to, because like you said, we've seen flashes. He needs to develop a program to where you're going to work on it in the offseason, but you're going to translate it to the games when the season comes. How many times do we see guys, like especially centers, they'll show videos like Mitch. All these videos online that he's shooting threes in his offseason workouts, and then the season comes, we're all hyped. Mitch is going to start shooting threes. Doesn't take a three all season. You know what I mean? So it's like you need to develop a regimen that you're going to translate into the court. And for me, if he doesn't develop some type of mid-range action, some type of, from the key to the paint, something around there, when you look at guys in history that do have physical limitations, you look at, Melo, you look at Paul Pierce. Kawhi is not that athletic to me. Kawhi, I know, can jump straight and dunk, but in terms of speed, sideline to sideline, Kawhi is all footwork.
He's got a great first step, though, because he's got a long stride. So but but yeah, not necessarily.
But the mid range is still deadly for him.
Deadly.
So when you look at the history of guys, even Zach Randolph, who's a power forward, but still, when we talk about physical limitations, not having that natural.
Luka isn't that fast.
So don't you watch Luka on TV and ask yourself how come they can't stop him? He's the slowest. He's the slowest superstar I've ever seen. That's
but look,
so good.
RJ. Sometimes when he gets to the paint, there he like finishes with tremendous conviction and with great results. He has like some. I mean, well, the last game he missed like 9 3-pointers, but he made like all 7 of his 2-point attempts or something. He definitely can own when he's in the paint. It's just his decision-making process has to get a little quicker. When he's got to see the double team coming a little bit earlier. And he can't force bad shots. That's the one key thing about him. He's got to cut that down. And I see him making an effort to do all that, which I really believe. I believe he's going to reach his ceiling. The question is, how high is his ceiling? But the
question is, will he reach it here? That's the big question.
And that's the other question. Hey, we might see it. He might be this series.
If Tibbs plays Fournier, if Randall doesn't play,
if Tibbs plays Fournier, what?
Wait, hold on.
Fuck out of here.
Let me set it up.
Well, you gotta
access denied.
Hold on. That's George. That's George's boy. That's George's boy. Evan Fournier is George's boy. If Tibbs plays Fournier like it's the season, I'm talking about if Randall doesn't play. Because we've seen in the season, Randall doesn't play, the next man up, rotation, next man up, next starter up, next guy off the bench, that trickle-down effect. If Randall doesn't play and Tibbs somehow still plays Fournier, man, I'm going to be so upset. Like, you cannot, because then, like, if Randall doesn't play, do you cut down the rotation or, I don't want the season rotations to go into the playoffs.
I think Deuce will step up in there.
Yeah, Deuce over Fournier.
Yeah,
but Randall's a 4, so you need that extra wing, but you got to go small in the perimeter. Do not play Fournier, please.
No, we're going to have Hart.
Hart will rotate Hart or RJ to the 4.
Yeah, Hart or RJ will
just don't play Fournier
to fill in the second unit.
Can't see a minute of action.
No. And we might see this early as tomorrow, guys. I don't. And my feeling is, I think Randall's not going to play tomorrow. Also, the second game is not till Tuesday. So
tomorrow's a must win for you then, George, right?
Tomorrow is a must win, no matter what.
Randall's playing. He's going to play.
You think so? I think he's not going to play. I think he's not going to play.
Because I don't think on an ankle you need a contact. Because I know a lot of it has been made because of the reports that he hasn't been cleared for contact.
Yeah.
And I think if it was a knee injury, if it was a shoulder injury, if it was something that you could, a hand, a thumb, you need contact practice for that.
Yeah.
But an ankle, if you're good, you're going to play. I think
you don't need contact. You don't need contact to
you could take it to game day. I think the way Tibbs is going to play, he's going to talk at 4:30 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. They're going to ask him about it, I'm sure. I think he's going to play the same thing he does. They're going to take it right up to game time. And I think in the end, I think he's going to play.
Yeah, the whole reason they don't do contact is because they don't want him to tweak it a little bit, and then that'll reset the clock.
Yeah, exactly. Ankles are tricky, man.
Very.
They're a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I don't think he's going to play. I hope he does play because he can play. He's like 90% at least, and I'll be happy. But if he can't play, and I think he probably won't play, the advantage is he gets an extra 3 days because then he doesn't have to play till Tuesday. And then by then, he should definitely be ready to go. But tomorrow is definitely a must-win. The first 2 games, we've got to split the first 2 games, no matter what. But it definitely life will get much more difficult if we lose tomorrow for this team. What are they going to do? Are they going to stay in Cleveland Sunday and Monday? Are they going to fly back home Saturday night, then fly back there Monday, which is probably what I would want to do if I were them. There's going to be a lot of interesting dynamics if we lose tomorrow, depending on how we lose. But I have a feeling we're going to win tomorrow. I think we can win this series even without Randall. I think we can win this series with a struggling RJ. That's how much I think that Brunson is going to dominate. And then the IQs, Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppins. We barely even talked about Mitch and Isaiah Hartenstein, what they do. Josh Hart. we've got such a nice, well-balanced, deep team. We can win this series. And we have the Thibs factor with JB Bickerstaff, the inexperience of JB Bickerstaff. So I think we can win it. However, it definitely gets much more possible if we steal that first game in Cleveland. Got to do it.
You imagine the overreactions, the energy. If we win game 1,
Oh, people gonna lose their mind.
We're gonna be going crazy. At 24 hours from now, if we have won, because the game starts at 6.
Because that guarantees you at least 1-1 going into the Garden.
Exactly.
Game 3 at the Garden. Game 3 at the Garden.
And then think about all the pressure on the Cavs for game 2.
Yep.
Oh, those long threes get a little longer. The ball gets a little heavier.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crazy.
The butt cheeks get a little tighter.
A little tighter. Oh yeah. It's gonna be awesome. Well, it does. It's all about tomorrow. All right. Well, I hope you guys are right. I hope Randall does play. I hope he does play because that starting unit has been outstanding. I think you guys saw that tweet I put out. Everyone was complaining about they should bench RJ and all that stuff. It's the 7th best starting lineup in the NBA in terms of.
Yeah, I'm not making any drastic changes like that heading into the playoffs. It's no need for
whatever it is. I know he's not giving us the efficiency we want, and sometimes he gets burned on back doors and all this stuff. But the unit itself has been incredibly productive together. And he only plays, he's the first one to sub out of that unit so that he can come back in with the second unit to lead that unit. So it's not like it's all on him, but I just don't think it's the time to change right now. I think we've come to the end, my friends. It's 6:26 here in Los Angeles. The Bulls and Heat right now, I believe it was tied. Last I looked at it, the Heat are up now with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. It's 93-90.
Yeah.
That is wild. They are playing in Miami. The Bulls are a frustrating team. I'm glad they're not our team. Same in Miami. I didn't think Miami was going to do. I didn't think either of these two teams were going to do much this season. So it's ironic that they're both battling right now.
Hoping the Bulls win, man. I think the Bucks will smoke the Heat, man.
Yeah, I agree.
They just don't have enough scoring punch. The Bulls got more potential, as we mentioned.
Yeah,
as DeRozan misses a free throw,
but they gotta. He made the second one. Oh, all right, guys. Thank you guys so much, man. Appreciate this. Shout out to the chat. You guys were fantastic. I was looking at it as we were talking. Great discussion in the chat. If you guys are watching this on replay, you should definitely read the chat as it goes through. Some great comments here. Lex the Destroyer, thank you so much for holding it down. The best mod around, outstanding, no doubt. Knicks 100 AGM was in here in the house. We got David Smith in the house. Cheppy Logos, what's up, brother? Who else was in the house? Anyone you guys want to shout out?
Yeah, salute Adrian Royalty, David Smith. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really do appreciate the support. Joe Long.
Pudge Nice,
salute.
Yeah, man. And there's some dude, JD Sports Talk is in the chat too. And oh shit, Miami just hit another.
He's multitasking.
They hit a 3.
This is what I'm saying. Like Max Strus has 28 points. Come on, man. Like,
but he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that against.
That's why. That's why it's just Heat are in good shape right now. This is wild.
That's why I'm so glad we're not in the play-in. The play-in is a disaster.
You one game and you're out.
You're out. You're gone. One game, or even if you finish 7th seed and you have one bad game, and then the next game the other team just catches fire. Even if you play your best game, defend well, they're just on fire, which can happen any night in the NBA. You're out.
They're like Max Strus with 20.
And then when you win, you run into a buzzsaw. Like
he's at the free throw line for the He's about to have 30. Max Strus, come on, man.
That's crazy.
That's the problem. Like the NFL, there's only one sport designed for that stuff. Like you have soccer and you have the NFL. Those one game eliminations, you can live with that. Like because that sport is designed for that. But when you talk about like baseball,
and
we have the same
basketball.
they're two sports, man. If you play me one-on-one in the park, you might get lucky and beat me one game, but let's play a series. Let's see if you're really better than me. You know what I mean? Like that's why I'm so glad we avoided the play-in.
Yeah,
and that's I think why the NBA has designed it that way, is to try to motivate teams to get a top 6 seed, and avoid it.
Shout out to my son who's in the chat. I hope the Knicks win a series for you, my son. Yes.
You sound like Mufasa.
Oh, my son. Yeah.
When the Knicks win, all that the light touches will be yours, my son.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, man. He was born in 2000 when the Knicks went to the finals. The actual finals were in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
What an incredible run. So, of course, he was going to – we were living in New York at the time. It was a great year. Of course, he was too little to remember. But he remembers the Carmelo years. So this is definitely something right now, something special for us to celebrate. It's a great thing.
Nervous for tomorrow? How y'all feel? Y'all feeling jitters, goosebumps, or you got to wait till tomorrow to feel that?
I'm super confident.
I'm hyped tonight.
I'm really confident. I'm going to go watch the next game at a happy hour somewhere with a friend.
Somewhere around the town.
Yeah. No. Are you nervous? You're nervous.
I mean, I got a jam-packed day tomorrow, so it's gonna be early for me. I'm gonna start sipping early. So, the adrenaline is gonna be crazy, man. I don't know when's the last time I was this excited for a Knicks playoff. I mean, there hasn't been much in terms of playoffs.
2 years ago we were pretty hyped.
Yeah.
For game 1, we were hyped. Once we lost that game 1, we were like, oh. But then we won game 2.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, okay. Game 3 was the
quiet
key
after that.
Yeah, that game 3, that Friday night game at the Garden, we were no, it was on the road. We were expecting Randall to step up, and he didn't.
And this is why these things this is why I want to give the Cavs respect in all this. It happened against the Hawks. We smoked them throughout the season. What happened in the playoffs? The Bulls 3-1 against the Heat, dominated the season. Tonight, done.
Yeah,
like now it's a different ball game. So I can't wait. For tomorrow.
Well,
let's get it.
Max Strus goes off for 28 points or more. Even I mean, how do you plan for that? I mean, it's crazy.
So hopefully that's not Ricky Rubio against the Knicks.
31 for Max Strus. Exactly. We'll be ready. But we have beautiful thing is we have a 7-game series.
Man's went 7 of 12 from 3. Sheesh.
Crazy. Yeah.
Okoro shot 37% from 3 in the corners, shot 151 corner threes, shot 37%. Very important player for them, even though he's not a great offensive player, but he's kind of like their little mini Bruce Bowen. Just play defense and shoot corner threes. That's what his role has become.
The Heat have hit 10 of 33 pointers. 7 were from Max Strus. The other 3 are from bench players. None of the other starters on the Heat have hit a frauds
to be. That's why
Hero is 0 for 5.
That's not gonna that's not gonna beat the Bucks.
No, it's not even gonna make them push them to the edge and stress them out or take them even to 6 games. Yeah. We need whoever plays them to take them to at least 6 games.
Well, now it's gonna be the Heat. We need the Heat to do it now.
Yeah. Well, you never know with Jimmy Butler, man. He's crazy, but he could will a victory here and there. But
30 points,
31 for him. Yeah. All right, brothers. Got to roll. Thank you so much for watching this, everybody. This has been a great stream. Thank you guys for joining me here. Been wanting
Knicks in 3.
Knicks in 3. Let's go.
We're gonna win all the home games, huh?
Yeah. Well,
no, we're gonna win the first 3, and then
we're gonna win.
Adam Silver's just gonna be like, you know what? Don't even.
Mercy rule.
Yeah.
It's no point.
We're buying all the Cavs tickets to Cancun. No game 4. Oh man, we'll see. 24 hours from now, we're gonna know a lot. All right. Thank you guys for watching this. Again, my name is George. This is Quis of Sports Vibes TV. We got JD of JD Sports Talk and KFTV. I'm George from Into the Knicks-Verse. Please subscribe to all of our social media and YouTube channels and turn on the notification bell, especially now, because at any moment, you never know, we could go live. Any of us could go live with shows. There's definitely always going to be the Sunday stream, though I'm not sure what are you doing for the playoffs in terms of your schedule?
We're on Sunday. Foxy and I will be live 6 p.m.
All right, so the Sunday stream on Sports Vibes TV will be there. You definitely catch that.
Yes, sir. We'll be recapping game 1.
And JD, you're going to be with CP
40-40 Club tomorrow, New York City. 40-40 Club. We're going to do a mega cast. We're only going to do one stream from pregame all the way to play-by-play, all the way to postgame. We're only going to stream one stream, so it's going to be probably like an 8-hour stream. And I'm going to be, I'm going to be part of it from play-by-play and post. So it's going to drink a lot of Red Bulls.
There we go.
Some Jack Daniels, courtesy of CP.
There's going to be a drunken JD tomorrow. Yeah. And there might be a drunken George too. If we win this game, I'm going to be on celebrating. I'm probably going to go live tomorrow after the game. So Keith, if you're around, you can jump on with me.
We definitely see that, drunk George. So just don't get too drunk when we can't comprehend you on post game.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you. We're gonna do the sign off here. Get to this point here. All right. I'll see you around the Knicks-Verse.